either. Couple of technical difficulties. This time I'd like to call this January 10th meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. Thank you to those watching via live stream and those who are watching a recording of this meeting. On January 16th, a video of this meeting will be uploaded to www.townofmorrisville.org/government/live-video. As you can see, we have a couple of our members participating remotely this evening, and we will do our best to have a smooth hybrid meeting this evening. Senior Officer Carl Rodriguez has served as a police officer for 24 years, serving 15 years with the town of Morrisville. He is assigned to the K-9 unit with his partner K-9 Arco. He's also a veteran of the U.S. Army and served for 7 years as a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division. We appreciate you being with us here tonight as our Sergeant-at-Arms, sir. Reverend Dr. Rose Cornelius, Morrisville Chamber of Commerce President, will provide tonight's invocation. Doctor?
Can we bow our heads? Oh God in heaven, we are so grateful to you for all that you have done in this town. We thank you for our freedom, oh God, and we thank you for all of the prosperity that you have brought to us. We thank you for our peace. We thank you for your protection over us, oh God. And God, as we go into another year, we thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you that you are with us. We thank you that you are able to open up the windows of heaven and pour down blessings that we can't even receive. We just thank you, oh God. God, I thank you for this government. I thank you for the opportunity for us all to gather and to hear from each other and to debate and deliberate the government of this town. Thank you for that freedom. Thank you for that liberty. I pray for our leadership. I pray that you be with them, that you lead them and guide them and give them wisdom from on high to make the right decisions, oh God. And as they deliberate, I pray that they have everyone in mind. All, men, women, boys and girls, oh God, rich and poor. We thank you for such a diverse community as Morrisville. You have made us a unique place to be, and we are so grateful for all that you have added to us. We thank you for our diversity. We thank you, Lord God, for our peace. And I pray, oh God, that you would help our leaders to move us in the right ways. We pray for every staff member, oh God. Be with our first responders. Be with those who even collect the garbage, oh God. Bless them and keep them. I pray health over everyone. I pray your peace over everyone. Help us as we go into 2023, oh God. We need you. We can't make it without you. So we thank you, oh God, for all that you have done and all that you will do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All who are able, please stand and join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before you adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Does any council member want to say anything at this time?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I second that motion.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 5-0. There is one administrative report tonight, a quarterly capital projects update. Administrative reports are provided as information-only items unless council has questions. Are there any questions on any of the items in this report? Seeing none, hearing none. We'll move on to item number 7, presentations. We have 2 presentations tonight, proclamations recognizing 2023 Year of the Trail and National Mentoring Month. I will read the first proclamation. And this proclamation is recognizing 2023 as Year of the Trail. Whereas the town of Morrisville's natural beauty is critical to its residents' quality of life, health, and economic well-being, and whereas the trails that span across our community are an integral part of recreational and transportation possibilities of our area and promote an enjoyment of scenic beauty by our residents and our visitors, and whereas the parks, greenways, trails, and natural areas in our community are welcoming to all and provide a common ground for people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds to access our rich and diverse natural, cultural, and historic resources. And whereas the town of Morrisville's nature trails stretch across 4 main locations, including Crabtree Creek Greenway, Hatcher Creek Greenway, Indian Creek Greenway and Trailhead, and Shiloh Greenway, totaling 7 miles, with the addition of Grace Park, Mill Spring, Morrisville Market, Park West, Cotton Place, and Sawmill Creek Greenway. Morrisville's Greenway total is at 9.95 miles. We're getting really close to 10. And whereas trails offer quality of life benefits to all as expressions of local community character and pride, as outdoor workshops for science education, as tools for economic revitalization, as free resources for healthy recreation, as accessible alternative transportation, and as sites for social and cultural events. And whereas Crabtree Creek Greenway and Hatcher Creek Greenway both tie into the town of Cary's Greenway system, providing residents of Morrisville access to Umstead State Park and Lake Crabtree. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly designated 2023 as Year of the Trail in North Carolina to promote and celebrate the state's extensive network of trails that showcase our state's beauty, vibrancy, and culture. And whereas North Carolina is known as the Great Trails State, now therefore the Town Council of the Town of Morrisville does hereby proclaim 2023 as the Year of the Trail in Morrisville and command its observance to all people. And at this point, I would like to also recognize Mary Fawcett, our Interim Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources, to share anything else she'd like to share.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you heard in the proclamation, this is deemed the Year of the Trails, and it sets aside the state as the Great Trails State. And this kicked off on January 1st with First Day Outdoors, which Parks presented a guided walking tour along our Crabtree Creek Greenway and then along the Hatcher Creek Greenway. In all, we had about 40 participants that came out, and some of you were there enjoying our beautiful summer Sunday day in January. And the Parks Department plans other guided walks in spring and the summer, so we hope that those who are listening, our residents, will join in, and they can find out this information on our website and social media in the coming months. Entertain any questions that you guys may have. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I will read the next proclamation about Mentoring Month. This proclamation recognizes January as National Mentoring Month. Whereas mentoring is a long-standing tradition in which a dependable, caring individual provides guidance, support, and encouragement to facilitate the social, emotional, and cognitive development of a person. And whereas a mentor is a person or friend who guides a less experienced person by building trust and modeling positive behaviors, and an effective mentor understands that his or her role is to be dependable, engaged, authentic, and tuned in to the needs of the mentee. And whereas continued research on mentoring shows formal, high-quality mentoring focused on developing the competence and character of the mentee promotes positive outcomes such as improved academic achievement, self-esteem, social skills, and career development while successfully reducing substance abuse, academic failure, and delinquency. And whereas mentoring, in addition to preparing individuals for school, work, and life, is extremely rewarding for those who serve as mentors, and whereas recognizing January 2023 as National Mentoring Month will help call attention to the critical role mentors play in helping all people realize their potential and encourage others to lead by example, finding ways to give back to the local community by participating as a mentor in the critical, life-changing moments of the mentee. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Morrisville does hereby recognize the month of January 2023 as National Mentoring Month in the Town of Morrisville, North Carolina. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to having lots of mentors in town, helping people out. I know we have the Big Brother, Big Sister program right here in Morrisville, which is a great mentoring program as well. Okay. At this time, the town clerk will present any public comments received. Is there anyone signed up for public address this evening, sir?
There were no public comments received via email, and there were no individuals signed up to give in-person public address.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the room who would like to address this body for 3 minutes of any subject of your choosing, except for the public hearing which we're having tonight, because that's separate? Okay. We're moving on to item 9, which is action items. There is one action item on this evening's agenda, resolution of support for NCDOT paved trails and sidewalk feasibility study grant application. Danielle Kitteridge, principal planner, will facilitate the item. Ms. Kitteridge.
Good evening. So this does dovetail well with the year of the trail as we talk more about trails. The North Carolina Department of Transportation Integrated Mobility Division has opened a grant cycle for feasibility studies for paved trails and sidewalks. This includes greenways. There was a little bit of a brief mention of this at the December 13th meeting to Town Council in terms of this grant and what we were looking at. So this is has one-time funding right now for this application, and there is no local match required. However, it may be factored in if there's a competitive grant cycle. So I'll touch on that in another slide. There are two types of applications, a small scale and a large scale. It's really just based on a variety of factors, including length of it, different jurisdictions involved, corridor constraints, and I won't go into the details with all of those. Staff did form a multi-departmental team. We took a look at our greenways map and multi-use path map to see what might be the best trail to include for a grant application and be the most competitive. So we did select Stirrup Iron Creek Greenway, and this trail is just slightly over 3 miles, but we were anticipating possibly a small-scale feasibility study for this that might border on the low end of the large scale just because of that slight change in mileage. But we are looking at recommending a 10% match, so probably likely closer to the $8,000 range for this application. The application deadline was yesterday, but with that, we submitted the grant application, and NCDOT was something that they did explain with the grant application process. It fell over the holidays. It only opened in November, that we can submit draft resolutions of support. But we do have to complete as a formality, and with your approval as well, having that resolution of support signed. We did include in it a 10% match, so that would still be your the check mark in the application is willingness to contribute funds. It does not specifically say how much, so if you decide you want to try and change that, that would be okay as well. But we felt that the 10%, which we do have funds currently available, interest funds out of the Greenway fund that would support that. So I did want to mention that as well. What we're looking for on this resolution, 2022-512-0, is for approval for supporting the NCDOT paved trails and sidewalk feasibility study grant application for the Stirrup Iron Creek Greenway with a 10% match. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. With regard to the application, it was a tight timeline, and we really look forward to being able to get this application submitted.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Kittredge? Okay. Seeing none, should we read the, as on the screen?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make that motion.
Yes, please.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'd like to propose the approval of resolution 2022 or 2023.
Is based on when we had to get it started in January, it does end up with that number. So it is 2022.
I just want to make sure we do this correctly. 2022-512-0, supporting the NCDOT paved trails and sidewalks feasibility study grant application for Stirrup Iron Creek Greenway with a 10% match commitment. Do I have a second?
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Keep those grants going. Okay, we're at item 10, public hearings. Depending on timing, we might do one public hearing and then take a break, or we might go through them both. We'll see. There are two public hearings on this evening's agenda. UDO text amendments related to the floodplain management and a proposed amendment of the zoning map for Duke Energy located at 940 Morrisville Carpenter Road. That's REZ 22-0010. Ben Mills, Stormwater Engineer Manager, will brief council on the first item. Mr. Mills.
Good evening. Ben Mills, Stormwater Engineer Manager, Town of Morrisville. Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about the UDO text amendments related to floodplain management. This is kind of a unique topic, so maybe some years from now, other amendments in the future. Before I get into details, I'll kind of go into background of why the town regulates the floodplain and also how we came to this point. All right, so I was saying, why does the town of Morrisville regulate the floodplain? Well, common sense can tell you we just don't want any type of development next to a stream that floods. It could be a danger to the homeowners and also people downstream. One item you may not be aware of, we have to regulate the floodplain to ensure federal flood insurance and disaster assistance is available. So federal flood insurance comes from the National Flood Insurance Program. They offer it to people in the town. They can buy it from them. And this program is, regulated by FEMA. And the partnership also includes flood hazard maps and certain regulations the town has to enforce. Some of the responsibilities that are involved in the National Flood Insurance Program kind of listed on the screen. Some of the main ones are we have to require permits for all development of floodplain. So track to make sure it's built to our regulations. Two other things I'll note is we have to make sure our flood hazard maps are up to date. Also, that our flood ordinance is up to date and meets minimum requirements that is. I mentioned those two items. So the flood maps were updated by FEMA and the North Carolina Flood Plain Mapping Program. That was back in 2016 after a couple of 90-day appeal periods and updates to that model. FEMA finally notified Morrisville January 2022. Maps are ready, and we had 6 months to adopt to stay in compliance. Program. Also during this time, spring 2022, the state also said they updated their model ordinance, and so that's important too because we have to make sure we at least requirements that they put out. So during that 6 months deadline, it came to town council and we adopted the new maps for flood ordinance. And for the state model flood damage prevention ordinance that was updated in 2022, we updated our model flood ordinance to meet that at a minimum. And that's what's required to stay in compliance. So that was in our town code of ordinances, that was updated in June 2020. UDO has a different process. It's a little bit longer. So at the time, we couldn't meet the 6-month deadline. The affected sections for the UDO are listed on the screen. Pretty much the floodplain section is Article 5, and then we also had to update some associated definitions in Article 11. On the screen, you can see the summary of the amendments. Very minor FEMA form number updates, Bigger things are, requiring extra floodproofing certificate when construction have that much. I don't think, since I've been here, we haven't had any development like that in Morrisville for commercial. The 10-year term period for substantial damage and improvement was, I think, 1 year before, now it's up to 10, and various definition updates. Summary, coming here tonight to amend, propose amending the floodplain management section of the UDO to meet the model flood ordinance and the town code of ordinances that we've recently updated. Changes match these requirements of the state. Adoption is mandatory for Morrisville to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. Took this to the PZB, they unanimously. I'll open up to questions, public hearing.
Does anyone have any questions? This is more of an administrative cleanup than anything else, and you've briefed us on this before. Okay. We have two of our council members participating remotely, and if they want to chime in, they'll do so through the town clerk, just to recognize their input.
TJ, we have names.
Okay, Councilmember Rabati and Councilmember Fender. Glad that we can hear you now. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll open up the public hearing then. I declare it open. Are there any speakers for the public hearing?
No, sir, there were no individuals signed up to make in-person public hearing comment.
Okay, is there anyone here in the room who wanted to speak on this subject? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Scargan-Johnson, please.
I just wanted to make the motions.
I'd like to recognize you to make the motions.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 5-0. Any discussion on the item itself? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt. I'll recognize Councilmember Scargan-Johnson.
Is there any specific language, or can I just make a motion to adopt the ordinance as stated? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-496-0 related to the Unified Development Ordinance text amendments related to the floodplain management.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that also carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Mills. Appreciate it. Yes. Okay. We will take a 5-minute recess. We'll please reconvene at 6:33. Thank you all. We're going to ask for a little bit more grace from y'all. We're going to actually take another 12 minutes of break, so feel free to go out into the lobby and get water or go to the bathroom or anything. We'll reconvene at 6:50. We're expecting to have a couple more of our council members arrive to participate in the rest of the meeting. So we thought that was important to do so, if that was their wish, because we were having some technical difficulties. So we appreciate your patience, and we're going to reconvene at 6:50. Thank you. Right, that's a plus. Remember when I was in
But the wild part is that when they spoke, the microphones came back on. Then they went back down, so I'm not.
The rest of the meeting is going to go like so.
I don't know. It can't get any worse, so.
Well, they want.
I don't think we're going down. I'm not going on. I mean, it's in and done.
But it's recording, so.
Can you get some microphones for here?
For that.
Okay. I'm having Michael test. It's not working for me at home. Okay.
Just to rule out.
Thank you.
But if you need someone's attention, you can ask them to come on out.
So we're just the teams to function.
And I'm guessing that when it came up, that was just.
So we'll have to post the lot.
You readjourn, you could let the audience know. We test and all the systems.
Please stop, bite your tongue.
Finally, I get to do it.
Hardware malfunction. You cannot get it to come back up. We are not live streaming. It is recording. And so that'll be available. It was working. I think that's
Councilmember Donna Fender and Councilmember Ann Rabati, who joined the meeting in progress. Appreciate that. Just a little explanation of what just happened. We, as part of our protocol, before every meeting, we check all of our equipment, make sure everything is working well. Everything was working well at the beginning of the meeting. We had some kind of hardware malfunction. We've put our resources and our staff towards it, but haven't been able to resolve it. So the live stream is not presently working. We apologize for that, but the recording is happening. So we plan to publish this meeting in the future as stated earlier. Town Manager Page, is there anything that I've missed?
No, Mayor, thank you for sharing that information.
Okay, great. So moving on to our agenda, we continue in item 10, action items. At this time, I'd like to recognize Susie Russell, Planner 2. She's going to brief council on the next item. Not sure.
Better?
That is better. Thank you.
Okay, the applicant, Duke Energy Progress, is present tonight, and they are here to request a conditional zoning map amendment for the purpose of expanding the existing substation at the subject property located at 940 Morrisville Carpenter Road. Eric, do I have the mouse or? That's okay. Oh, is it here? Okay. Okay, the 14-acre parcel is outlined in red on the map before you. This property is currently zoned low-density residential, and the applicant is proposing to rezone to conditional low-density residential. The current land use is major utility facility, which by definition is described as a structure or facility that is relatively a major component of an infrastructure system providing the community or region-wide utility services. Major overhead high-voltage electrical power transmission lines, as well as substations, are listed within the definition. The major utility facility land use was lawfully developed on this site in 1987. At that time, the site was zoned agricultural. In 2013, the UDO was created with two phases, the second phase being a zoning map amendment. And this was when the zoning district for this site was renamed. It was renamed to low-density residential. That aligned with the designation on the future land use map. This caused the land use to no longer comply with the regulations in the UDO, and it became a non-conforming use. This property, so the properties to the north, east, and west, those are zoned low-density residential. And then across Morrisville Carpenter Road to the south are zoned high-density residential. It is designated as institutional on the future land use map, and the land use plan designates utility land uses as a preferred use. The land use plan states that a key consideration under the institutional land use is to identify potential sites for long-term expansion of community facilities and related infrastructure that will be necessary to maintain the quality of services and amenities in Morrisville. Your packet, you will see that the applicant is proposing 7 conditions as part of their conditional zoning map amendment. And then they did provide a sketch plan. The sketch plan, it just depicts where that actual infrastructure will be located. The dark green areas indicate where the vegetation will remain. The light green areas indicate where there will be no vegetation whatsoever. The stormwater pond is located in this area here, and then the gray area shows the substation. On the lower south portion of that gray area is the existing substation, and you can see the corridor where the overhead lines go currently. On the northern portion is where the expansion would be located, and those lines you can see would come through this area here. And then off of Morrisville Carpenter Road, you have the drive aisle. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional rezoning, and at the Planning and Zoning Board public comment session on December 8th of 2022, that application was heard, and they also recommended approval. If you guys have any questions for me at this time, I'm happy to take those, and the applicant is here, and they have a presentation as well.
Questions? I imagine we, Councilmember Garamella, please, and then Councilmember Rabati.
My question is, can you guys hear me? Okay, my question is more about the stormwater. Is that something the town is forcing to have? Or because right now we don't have that, right?
The stormwater is a requirement in the UDO, and the stormwater that you see depicted on that sketch plan is the extent of what it would be. It could possibly be smaller than that.
And is that the only location, or are there other locations to have the stormwater?
That is the location that Duke has proposed
Okay.
for the application.
But it could be easily, if what I'm asking is, I'll ask the Duke anyway, that if it could be changed, it could be changed too. It's not like, usually they look at the lowest point, it's topo, but I just wanted to see if there are other locations. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Rabati, please.
Yeah, hi. Back on slide 7, could you show me again, I cannot get this big enough so that I can read it. Can you show me again on slide 7 where the current structure is and where, so what part of this big gray thing is current structure and what part is new?
Absolutely. So if you see the large rectangle to the south, can you see my the mouse moving? Great. Okay, so this area to the south, so the lower portion is the existing, and the lines are coming through this corridor here.
Okay.
The expansion would be located on the northern portion or the portion to the top of that gray rectangle, and the overhead power lines would go down this corridor here that jut off to an angle to the upper right of the plan.
Okay, and so do we have any pictures of what it's actually going to look like?
That would be a question for Duke. They did not submit something that shows a photograph of the substation, what it would look like.
Okay, so let me just make sure that I understand that these light gray lines here coming out of the lower half of the big gray box, those are currently there, and they go across, I assume this is Chapel Hill Road, and they're going away, and there's going to be this bigger structure with the lines jutting out on an angle, and then that's going to cross Chapel Hill Road in a different place. Is that correct?
It's Morrisville Carpenter.
We're not at Chapel Hill Road.
Okay.
So Chapel Hill Road is not on the plan. This, are you speaking about this vertical line right here?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I did think that was, I don't know what I was thinking.
No,
Okay.
you're fine. That's fine. So what that is a corridor that, I don't know the technical terminology, but Duke will. That is where the substation power ties into the grid. So that's a power easement that literally connects to many substations. And it is like a cleared area with an easement. So there are large power lines going down that entire easement, and those extend city to city to city to city.
Okay, so the power lines that are currently there, the light gray ones will go away. The ones that are coming in, the dark gray ones, will just connect to the main power lines in a different place. Is that correct?
So the substation that is currently there, those lines are not going away.
They're not going away.
So this will be in addition to, like.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so just to clarify, this sketch plan just shows new additions. Everything that's already there is staying,
That is correct.
just to be clear. Okay, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by Councilmember Fender, please.
Yes. This is better. I think it's really important that we understand the height of this structure. I do appreciate the sketch plan, but it is significant. How many stories was that building? 2, 3, 4?
So there is not a building
I get it. What is the height equivalent
as a building.
as a office building? It's important.
No. So building code does not designate how tall a ceiling has to be. So you could fit multiple different stories into a building. So as a technical question, I'm going, okay, how do I answer
9-foot ceiling.
Right. So
It's next, it's
a 35-foot
It's
building.
adjacent to residences,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And whenever we look at transitioning from one type of use to another, we look at that transition. And since all the homes at Ridgemont are 2-story buildings, it's relevant if that structure is 3 or 4. Is it 2 stories? You know, what is that transition?
Hey, good evening, Council. Chris Lawson, Planning Manager. May I suggest some of these questions are probably better suited for Duke's team than our own staff?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll foreshadow where I'm going. The screening of woods and so forth, we've enjoyed for many years, and there's significant tree loss, there's significant, wildlife habitat, and then this structure could be very, very tall. I've seen in some other cities where these kind of structures have some additional screening that is not just natural screening. That is, makes it look like a real building, and it's really not a real building. There's things that we might want to consider having it screened a little bit more, not just natural screening, but actually physical screening to make it look a little nicer as it transitions to the residences. So I'll be asking that again this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Fender, please.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Is the individuals from Duke Energy here?
They are, and they do have a presentation as well.
Okay. I guess, my questions are more directed to Duke and their engineers. But I will start with the first one. In the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, it was asked how much power the expanded substation would generate. And the project manager wasn't able to answer that, but I would still like to know, what is the new capacity? What is the increase in capacity? I'm sure that number has to be a known number for them to determine what this design will look like and how much space. So I gotta believe that is a known quantity. So I would like to know that. My second question is, so what other options did Duke look at? Why does it have to be at this site? Could it be located closer to the facilities along McCrimmon Extension that are going to need this additional capacity? I think it would be better suited for an electrical substation to be more in the industrial area of Morrisville rather than smack dab in the middle of a residential area. And then my last question is, why, when they looked at that footprint to expand, why couldn't they have expanded further south, closer to the road, and leave more of a buffer between the equipment and the residents? It looks like they, I'm sure it has to do with how the transmission lines come out, but I just wonder if there's a way I see we need less buffer along the road and more buffer between the equipment and the houses. So why is that not possible?
Okay, so those are excellent questions for Duke, and I believe they are prepared with answers for those. Would you like Duke to come up now?
If I could suggest, if we could have Duke give their full presentation, and then we'll have a chance to ask questions of them then. But I think that after the presentation, maybe we have the public hearing, and then we can revisit the questions. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so that seems like a plan forward. So I'd like to recognize Duke Energy's presentation at this time. And if you want to address any of the questions you already heard during that, feel free. Otherwise, we'll probably be revisiting them after we hear from the public who have gathered as well.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Marty Clayton. I serve as the Director of Government and Community Relations for Duke Energy. My address is 410 South Wilmington Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. I just wanted to introduce several members of the team that have been working closely with staff as we've been in discussions and plans for this substation moving forward. As you can see here, in addition to myself, John Carter, who serves as the project manager, Nuwan Widger-Serrera, who serves as the lead transmission permitting manager, Brandy Reeves is our public engagement manager, and then Kim Craven, our principal engineer, who will specifically address questions and concerns with regards to EMF. As has already been indicated, we are here requesting and asking for an expansion of the Morrisville 230 kV substation. There's an existing substation there now. We essentially would look at doubling the capacity of that substation. The existing substation that's there now, transformer bank that's there now, is a 50 megawatt transformer bank. We would be looking at installing a 44 megawatt transformer bank moving forward, so almost doubling the capacity of the substation. As you can see here, as depicted with the significant projects that have occurred and the growth that has occurred in the Morrisville area over the last several years has necessitated the need for this critical infrastructure moving forward. It's really a matter of capacity and reliability that we're trying to address. And that's the critical service here that we're trying to provide to the town of Morrisville, and the reason that we're making this request this evening. In addition to the number of projects that have occurred over the past several years, I think it's important, Mayor and Council, to point out the way this growth has occurred. As you can see here from this chart, historically, Morrisville has grown at an average of about 1% a year from an electrical growth standpoint. In early 2022, the actual load from the town of Morrisville was about 100 megawatts. That was the load that we were serving in early 2022. In the past 18 months, we've had active requests for an additional 125 megawatts in load, more than double the current load. So as you can see, we've traditionally moved along at 1%, 2% a year. And then in the past 18 months, again, we've had requests that more than doubles that current load. The requests that we're receiving are coming from a variety of areas, including life science campuses, apartment complexes, office complexes, mixed-use development, and critical commercial infrastructure that's underway to serve the additional residents and customers moving into Morrisville. As I have stated, this is unprecedented load growth, not only for Morrisville, but for almost any area that we serve. So again, it is a critical need. You're going to hear more from Nuan later and other members of the team as we move forward. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to be before you this evening to make this request. At this point in time, I'm going to ask Nuan to come up and share the rest of her presentation with you. Okay?
Sir?
Mayor, council members, thank you for this opportunity to present to you. I'll go to the next slide here. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So I first would like to talk about the property history. As you can see from this slide, there's an aerial that's showing 1993, and as you can see clearly, the substation was in fact constructed by that time. Since that time, you can see the aerial to the right. That's what it looks like in 2023. So this property was purchased back in 1977. Since that time, since that time, the surrounding agricultural land has been redeveloped into residential and commercial uses, and I just wanted to point that fact out. I think this goes to answer to me one of the questions that came up earlier as to what exactly is proposed by this expansion, and what you see right here is the current substation footprint as it stands now, with the driveway leading to the substation off Morrisville Carpenter and that's Leaf Drive. What we're proposing to do, in essence, is basically expand this, double the size of what's there. And then this would be the new tap line that goes out to the main transmission corridor that we have running north to south here. Regency RTP 230 kV line. So just a question did come up during the Planning and Zoning Board hearing as to the size of what the expansion is. So currently, the size of the substation footprint is 210 by 143, which is about 0.68 acres. And once it's expanded, it would be 1.35 acres, roughly 210 by 280 feet. This is a little bit of a more zoomed-in view of that quadrant. And what we're proposing here is an 80-foot vegetative buffer between the property line to the north and where construction is going to take place. That's 80 feet right there. It's roughly 130 feet from the property line to the new fence line, and approximately 200 feet, 207 feet from the substation, the transformer within the substation itself to the property line. Likewise, the property line to the west, we have, it will be roughly 222 feet between the fence line and the property line. Some of the features of this project and site plan are that currently we have a requirement by the UDO to leave a 15% tree canopy coverage, as well as a 10% additional tree canopy coverage to satisfy the open space requirement. And what we're proposing currently is 40%, higher than what's actually required. Neighbors to the north will have an 80-foot buffer, as I mentioned previously. As far as aesthetics go, we're proposing to improve the fencing around the substation to be in compliance with the UDO. We are proposing to put in a 5-foot sidewalk along Leafy Creek Drive that doesn't exist currently. In addition, we are improving the driveway off Morrisville Carpenter, which is currently gravel. We're proposing to asphalt that driveway to help beautify that area, as well as improve the fencing and gate at the entrance to the site. Along with that, you'll see on the slide that we are prepared to additionally plant supplemental understory planting in the buffer to the north to help with visual screening and noise buffering. At this time, I'd like to invite Kim Craven, who's our subject matter expert for EMFs. One thing I do want to point out, Susie Russell did mention that there were no images. We did provide that in the packet that went to the Planning and Zoning Board hearing, photos of what the substation, typical substation would look like.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, sir.
We understand that electromagnetic fields can present questions and concerns for neighbors when we talk about a project like this. However, tonight we want to share some helpful information that can hopefully put these things in perspective for the residents. We know that there are residents that are interested in us taking magnetic field measurements. Our team here is coordinating, making a list of those, and will coordinate with me, and we will make those measurements when we have a final list. For 33 years, I have made magnetic field measurements inside substations, outside substations, underneath and overhead, underneath power lines and over over underground power lines and in homes. And for tonight's presentation, I want to demonstrate
I think it's just the arrow.
okay.
Sorry. You got it.
This is an example of one of many measurements that I've made in 33 years of how magnetic fields from substation equipment will actually move very low very quickly. As you can see in the center, you have a unit of 13.9. That's a national number, a North American unit of milligauss. And just 15 feet away, you're at 3.8, and then 1.6 at 30 feet from the substation transformer. This is pretty typical, that equipment inside the substation does not impact the magnetic fields outside the fence. Now, if I can back up to this chart here on the right, it gives you a perspective of the different types of magnetic fields that you would have from appliances and different power lines. And you can see that, say, for a hairdryer or a digital clock or even a microwave oven, those are sometimes 10 to 200 times what you would have at the edge of a substation fence. Now, based on scientific research, the WHO has said on their website that they've concluded that the current evidence does not confirm any existence of any health consequences from exposure to low-level magnetic fields. So we present this information for information purposes, and we follow the science when we build and construct our facilities. And this is what the science has studied and has said over the past 50 years.
At this time, I'd like to invite Chris Morris with Integrated Realty Resources to present the appraisal of real property impact study. I believe some of the reports have been shared to the council members already.
We just received those just before the meeting, so we haven't had a chance to review. Will Duke be able to provide us a copy of the presentation you're showing us right now? Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Morris. I'm the Senior Managing Director of Integra Realty Resources. We're an appraisal firm based in Raleigh and do a wide range of appraisal assignments from the Triad to the coast, Southern Virginia. Duke Energy's representatives contacted me to prepare a property impact study for the proposed use. Various special use permits in the Triangle area. I reviewed the proposed plan for the substation expansion, physically inspected the property, walked the property, saw what was existing, went to the general boundaries of the expansion, rode the Addison Park neighborhood for the cul-de-sacs that terminate adjacent to the northern boundary of the property. And so I was aware of the physical characteristics of the property and had a general idea of what was there and what the expansion would be. I reviewed Wake County GIS maps as far as aerial maps to see the chronology of the development of the substation and surrounding neighborhood. As previously addressed, the substation was built in 1987, and I think between Ridgemont and Addison Park, those subdivisions were developed in 1998 and 2005, and all the plat maps referenced Carolina Power and Light at the time. So the adjacent property showed, most of them showed the transmission lines if they were applicable. So there were, that sort of was the basis of fact of what existed, what people knew when they were acquiring their properties. To do the impact study, I pulled up the map of all the Duke Energy properties in Wake County. You can just type in Duke Energy and it lights up, and most of them are down near Sharon Harris, but the rest of the properties that they own are predominantly substations in the county. And I reviewed all of those locations. I tried to focus on residential neighborhoods that were recently constructed. As part of that, after finding recently constructed subdivisions near proximate to existing substations, I checked to see if there was sufficient sales activity in those subdivisions to determine if there are properties adjacent to the substation, if there are properties further removed from the substation, and they're similar age. Most of them were newer built, so there wasn't much depreciation. If there was any material change in value. That research, it's in the report that you were provided, included 5 residential neighborhoods in Cary, Morrisville, Fuquay, Knightdale, and North Raleigh. Based upon that analysis and having sales in each of these subdivisions, some that were against substation properties, some that were in other parts of the neighborhood, similar age built, there was no discernible, measurable difference in values because of proximity to the substation. In addition to that, I considered the appreciation rates of 2 subdivisions with active sales activity that were proximate to substations. One was in Fuquay and one was in Holly Springs. This information is included in the report too. Based on that analysis, the appreciation rates for those neighborhoods proximate to substations was equal, it was actually more than the Wake County residential appreciation rate for that same time period. So based on the fact that the data did not reveal any negative impact for proximity to substations, based on the fact there was a pre-existing use, and that the vegetative buffer will remain, plus as previously cited, understory trees will be, understory vegetation will be added. I concluded that there is no negative impact for the expansion to the adjacent residential properties.
That report, will we receive a soft copy of that report as well that we can share with the public?
Yeah, I mean, you've got.
Well, we got a hard copy, but that's hard to distribute.
Make sure.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much. We'll let you guys continue with your presentation.
So just a couple more slides, just to outline how we got here and when we started. So the project was announced in July of last year, excuse me, and we started planning for this roughly for the summer through the fall is the planning stage, and basically, so we're still within that planning phase, I guess you could say. If we are approved for this rezoning, then the next step would be site plan approval, as well as stormwater approval through the town of Morrisville, in addition to the necessary permits from DEQ. Once that phase would be over, we would be looking to do tree clearing, which would be necessary in order to be able to expand the substation. So that would take place, as you can see on the screen, between the fall of 2023 and summer of 2024. Roughly 8 months of construction take place there. And then we would be hoping to restore the site and install landscaping and be done with the project at that point, and energize the substation. This just explains what we've done thus far. Neighbors were notified within 100 feet of the substation. In addition, some informational postcards went out to some of the neighbors. And then in December of last year, we met with the Planning and Zoning Board and went through that process. Most recently, we had a meeting with some of the residences from Addison Park community, and we thank their participation and their feedback, which is what helped us develop some of the answers that we're providing today. So we appreciate their input, certainly. But having said that, we are still open to hearing more feedback, and as you can see on the screen, there's ways to contact us concerning this project. So wanted to point that out. Ma, did you have anything to add?
We're available for questions and to respond.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate it. At this time, we can decide as a group whether or not we want to open the public hearing and hear from the public first, or did you have something you want to say at this time,
I
Councilmember
got a long list, so if the public wants to go first, they'll just add to my list.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're good to go ahead and let the public have their time right now. They've been very patient. We appreciate that. So thank you very much. We'd appreciate if you guys would stay, because I think there might be some questions that we'll have based on what they say. So at this time, we're going to move to the public hearing part of this meeting. So I'm declaring the public hearing open at this time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call upon the town clerk to call on those here in person who have signed up. And you'll come to the microphone for up to 3 minutes per speaker. Note that this public hearing input session may be continued through several meetings, and speakers may present only once unless authorized by the town council. So generally that's a rule. You get one bite at this apple. So if you leave this open at the 24th meeting, we're hoping that you don't speak again. You'd have someone else speak on your behalf or something like that. And for tonight, if what you had planned to say has already been stated by a previous speaker, please consider refraining from using up your entire 3 minutes and simply provide a summary or affirmation of what you've already heard from one of your neighbors. We appreciate your being here, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. At this time, I'd like to recognize the town clerk for the sign-up sheet. And if you come up and your name and your address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes on the clock. And if you go over 3 minutes, I'd ask you to pretty much just finish that thought. I don't want to have to cut anybody off. If you want to provide written comments afterwards, we welcome that. You can send it to the town clerk. We'll see all your comments. And anything that you say tonight, it's also helpful if you wish to also email it to us so we have a written record of the entire thing. I benefit from that, but that's totally up to you. So, Town Clerk Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first individual signed up to give in-person public hearing comments is Dharmesh Balar.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm Dharmesh Balar, and my address is 129 Bayless Ridge Court, Morrisville, North Carolina, 27560.
You'll stay at that same microphone, please, as will all the speakers. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman. I wanted to, first of all, thank you for all that information that you provided. That was very helpful to Duke Energy. We do understand as a resident of the community that is most impacted by this expansion of adding an additional transformer to the property that is close to our homes. We understand that town of Morrisville is in need of power. Obviously, we are, as a town, is growing a lot, and we, as a residents, definitely understand the need of it. So we are here today, basically, or I am here today to explain what my concerns are. And first of all, before I start on that, if Duke Energy can provide me the list of postcards that were sent to the residents residing 100 feet in radius of that substation, that would be great. Thank you. So again, my concern, we were told in our last meeting that there were no health impacts. We were also told in this meeting there were no health impacts outside the fenced area. But we would like to know what the maximum magnetic field levels are from the property line of each house is closest to the new transformer and the current transformer. We also like to know what the current magnetic field readings are for all the impacted houses. So we did submit a request, especially I submitted a request to get the readings, but I'm sure there has been some expansion of some sort similar to this that you have collected before and after readings of the expansion with the similar megawatt of those transformers. So we'd like to get that reading as well. And then, yeah, if you could provide us that data or the range. Also, I'd like to call out the diagram that you had shown, the subject matter expert, I forgot your name, but that have shown that reading of the distance. We like to know what transformer megawatt was that, because you only provided the reading, but not the actual value of that transformer's megawatts. So if you could provide that, that would be great as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is Pumram Kaloru. I apologize, haven't read cursive in a while, so excuse me if I mispronounce your name.
My name is Punnam Kaloru. I live at 128 Bailey Street Court, Morrisville, North Carolina. Good evening, councilmen and mayor and everyone. Thanks for listening in. So I will read out my questions. So most of my questions, I have two questions. I'm going to read out two questions. So those are gearing towards these different options. So my friends and neighbors already distributed to most of the who are present here. So my questions are has Duke taken into the consideration building the substation to the south? So we understand south has HDR, but it is also greater distance to the residential buildings with a road in between. So my second question is, the current transformer may be using older technology, and there may be a newer technology out there that could accommodate double the voltage by replacing the current transformer. Has Duke Energy looked into replacing current transformer? If so, why was that option not chosen? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual signed up to give public hearing comment is Gerard Falzon.
Good evening, Council. My name is Gerard Falzone. I live at 114 Gracio Drive, which is in Morrisville, just to the east of the current site. And so I'd just like to read to you what I wrote to you. I urge you to reject this proposal until Duke provides adequate compensation for the certain loss in property values within Ridgemont and Addison Park. I myself am a 24-year resident of Ridgemont subdivision, And throughout this entire time, Duke and its predecessors have failed to adequately maintain nor attempt to beautify the easement between the two developments, which has caused all of our property values to suffer. Matter of fact, whenever a realtor is called to sell a property in Ridgemont for the last 20 years, there's only one question that a realtor asks. Is it up against the power lines? So that is the only question that is relevant when you're talking about Addison and Ridgemont. So there will be a loss of property values. I also want you to pay particular attention to the loss of the trees, not just the footprint of the substation, but the tremendous loss of trees. And that will cause air quality and wildlife to suffer, as Councilwoman Scroggins has noted adequately. The loss in property value is solely due to the actions and inactions of Duke and its predecessors. There's no reason to expect a change in their behavior unless this project is used as a bargaining chip. And to remedy the current and future value losses in return for your approval, I suggest that Duke pay for, number one, burying the transmission lines along the easement between the developments, moving the structure that currently exists on the easement, and beautifying the easement. And if number one cannot be done, Duke could pay for a joint communities pool and clubhouse. As you can see tonight, there are lots of questions that have been proposed. There have been no answers. So Duke has provided you with a presentation of questions that haven't been asked and not provided you with answers that have been asked. And so I ask your consideration and reject this proposal until such time as an adequate compensation plan is provided to the residents of Addison and Ridgemont. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
The next individual is Mary Ann.
My name is Marianne Wilcox, and I live in 128 Hatchet Creek Court in Morrisville. Thank you. So the last time I was here, I was very emotional. I walked in and I saw what was going to happen in my backyard, because it's literally in my backyard. Everything's it's gonna impact a lot. It's not only my neighbors, but also, like Gerald said, everything around us. So first off, I just want to add this as well, that with all these questions that we raised, not as many now, like last time, like this time around, we have more questions than we had that time with the previous meeting with the zoning board. I am kind of shocked that the zoning board approved it to move forward with all these questions hanging. That is just one thing that I want to put on record. And then I do have also a question to Duke, because it's their business and it's the energy business is your business. And we would like to know, like they said, about the numbers, but also the long-term exposure to these EMF fields. And then I have two questions that we worked on. What will Duke do to minimize the EMF? Because that is the big thing for all my neighbors. They are worried about that. I'm worried about that. So how have you thought about what you're going to do to shield us from the EMF? How are you going to make this better for us, to keep on living in our houses? Because the property value will fall. If I tell you tomorrow, please come buy my house with this big structure that's going to be more than 2 stories high, because this remaining one is big. So if I ask you, come buy my house tomorrow, will you do that? When you open your window and you look into, I don't know, maybe this horrible structure that wasn't there. So, and then also, like I said, the EMF readings long-time exposures, studies you can have for us with that. And then I also want to touch just quickly the noise. I stand on my porch at night. I hear that substation hum now. What is going to happen when it's a bigger substation? It's going to hum even louder. Yes, we live in a noisy town with planes and trains and everything, but that's my home. I've been living there for 12 years, and I really want it to, I want you to work with us to come up with a better solution, because I feel like there could be a better solution. And I want the town to listen to us, because we need it, and we trust you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dipti Pudel.
Respected Council, I represent Addison Park and Richmond, but I'm going to tell my story. I bought my property not even a year ago, and I paid a peak market rate. I paid the premium price. The one thing I considered was that Duke Energy Substation was going to be a non-conforming use, which means in usual context that the property will not be expanded, won't be rebuilt, won't be extended or upgraded. Now, 6 months later, I move in. I'm told by the Planning and Zoning Board that this is being rezoned. As a resident, I feel unheard. I don't feel respected because I put all my life savings there. I am going to put all my life savings into it, and I'm not even considered, I'm not even consulted at least 6 months ago. So that is the first thing, and that question is to the Planning and Zoning Board, that why was I not informed about this rezoning or the request of the rezoning until it made to the town agenda? Second question, in case this gets approved or in case today the council decides, I have this question. The magnetic field peaks during periods of highest power consumption, which is usually 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. in residential areas, and is generally weaker at the night. Has the Duke Energy recorded current EMF readings from the closest property line during peak hours and off hours? And please, could you provide all the readings that were taken throughout the day? And the biggest question is, if Duke has not, have they not done their due diligence? And how has the town council took it to this extent without giving us these numbers? As residents, I would like to be more respected. I would like the town to have these numbers before they even brought it to this agenda. Thank you.
And what was your address, please, for the record?
I am Dipti Paudel. My address is 129 Bayless Ridge Court, Morrisville, North Carolina, 27560.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Drupama Reddy.
Hi, my name is Anupama Reddy, and I live on 120 Bayless Ridge Court, Morrisville. So I'd like to follow up on some of the questions that my neighbors asked. We have kids, and our kids run around. So I live on the cul-de-sac on Bayless Ridge Court. My kids are out all the time. They run around the backyard, and they play on the cul-de-sac with the other kids. So my question is, so what we would like to know is the accepted magnetic field levels from the property lines for vulnerable population, right? So for the elderly, for kids, for pregnant women, for those who might be ill. So can you provide that, please, Duke? Thank you.
The next speaker is Mohan Variakan.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity. And my question is, has Duke Energy taken into consideration fire safety and how it impacts the residents, and what are the safety protocol in case of lightning striking on the transformer. And also, is there anywhere that Duke has built an underground substation transformer or are never done? And if right now the plan is to have double the power, so down the road it may, need to upgrade again and again. So I think I would consider. I'm requesting the council to reconsider this decision for the benefit of safety for the residents. Thank you.
And your address, please, sir?
I live in 214 Leecraft Way, Morrisville, Addison Park.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Averill Samuel.
Good evening. My name is Arnold Samuel. I live at 109 Bayless Ridge Court. I have two questions, but before I get to that, I want to share a little bit about this topic. As a father, husband, son, I've been on the HOA board in Addison Park for a year now. I'm also a church leader. And the reason why I take some of these positions is because I'm concerned for those that don't have a voice or those that are weak or needy. And a society is defined by how they listen and hear to those concerns and those in need. And so I thank the town council, those that came out to listen to us, came to our homes, and I appreciate that. I know that you're working with Duke, so I want you to hear us. That's the biggest thing. I want you to hear our concerns. I can't even imagine, Dharmesh, they bought their house recently at the peak. And I know there was a study done on market analysis. You disregard all of that when you're living in a town that is so popular. And I'm a former realtor also. You have to look, when we're going into an inflation and recession, that is going to be very important for those concerns. And so these questions have to be answered. One of my questions is, why were alternate plans not put forth at all? Why didn't Duke give the town additional, hey, what about these proposals? I don't understand why we can't do it on the south end versus an 8-foot buffer. That doesn't make sense. My child now plays in these cul-de-sacs, and now I'm questioning if this goes forward, what is my future here in Morrisville? I've been here 9 years, and I love Morrisville, and I appreciate how the town has done with all the growth, okay? 1 minute go. All right. So my first question is, why is there not alternative plans? Why? Town has to push them to give the alternative plans and say, we're here, not saying not happen. We're here for time to get these questions resolved, but we're here to work with you. We want to resolve this where we will all be happy together. Next part is, I believe it came up in these two meetings with Duke. If this expansion is only a 2-year fix, can you guarantee that there will not be any other projects or expansions planned for this property? Can that be a guarantee? This is really critical for us, and I hope that the town hears our concerns. And really, I know we're a small fish in a huge pond, but the town will be historically known for how they listen to the concerns of the few. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Sudeep Tamar.
Hello, council members. My name is Sudeep Tamar. I am a resident of Addison Park. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I bought my property 7 years ago in 2015. When I bought that property, I was promised that that is a green belt. When you enter the Edison Park, nobody's going to touch those trees. It's going to stay green. Now you are proposing that 150 feet of that green belt is going to be taken away from me. How is that a promise? When you planning something today, you zoned it in a way, that's a promise to its residents, right? That this is how it's gonna be. If you're breaking that promise, if you can rezone it at your will or wish or on the name of need, then what's the guarantee that it's not gonna be a tall casino building tomorrow there? I wanna rezone my property to a convenience store. Will you give me the same consideration it's given to Duke? Probably not, because I'm just a single person, not a big corporation. All I'm saying, like Anil said, there have been, why there have not been other side proposals, like 2 or 3 proposals at least, like, hey, which is the best one? Let's select that one. Nothing like that, right? What I'm saying, on the year, you guys are naming the year of trails. You're talking about beauty, natural beauty of Morrisville. You're cutting down 40% of trees at the entrance of my community. As somebody else mentioned, pollution. Did you consider that? As Marianne, my friend, noise pollution. Did you consider that? I mean, you stand on her porch and it's humming noise. She cannot enjoy her porch. It's coming on for 150 feet towards her house. Will any one of you willing to buy her house? Probably not. So I urge you guys, please decline this. This is not the right way to do it. I saw the presentation from Duke. They said in July, they sent letters or postcards within 100 feet of properties. I can bet you not even single resident from Edison Park has received that. I rest my case. I still urge you guys to reconsider this. At least postpone it for now until all the facts are up front. So we feel we have been heard. I understand there's a need for energy. We don't want blackouts either, but there has to be some other options. There always is a choice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You said Addison Park. What was your actual street address, please? What was your actual street address?
152 Leafy Creek Drive.
Okay, thank you, sir. We just collect that for the record, everybody.
The final speaker is Yessie Dalgander. Yessie, I apologize if I pronounced it incorrectly.
You want to spell it just to make sure?
It's kind of written in cursive quickly. Looks like Yessi or RRI. Last name Laugande. They're number 11 on the, well, number 10, I apologize.
I'm sorry, I was not prepared to talk, but anyway, I'm going to say a few words. Dear councilman and also the public of Morrisville, thank you for giving us the opportunity to at least hear our voices. So I'm a resident of Addison Park. I live on 105 Bayless Ridge Court. Okay, that's my address. Again, I think most of our community members already expressed a lot of questions. One thing I would like to add is, when this kind of a project is proposed, instead of you all should be expecting that, okay, residences will be coming up with these kind of questions. Okay, so ethically, morally, okay, you should be proactive. Okay, here is the data, here is the thing. I don't see any of those things so far. I'm sure because you must have expanded these kind of substations in a number of places, Duke must have expanded, but I haven't seen any proactive, the data, proactive information sharing or proactive, things. I haven't seen that. So I would like to really, hear more, those kind of responses from Duke. With that, I will end my time. Thank you.
Okay, and your name again was?
Yeri Lalgundar.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, generally we make a habit in case someone missed the sign up or arrived a little bit late. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak on this subject for up to 3 minutes? Okay. Were there any emailed comments or anything for public hearing, sir?
No, sir, there were not.
Okay. So sometimes we close a public hearing. We can discuss that after we go through questions and stuff this time, but I encourage us to consider leaving this one open as we move forward. But now we're going to take questions from the council. We can ask questions of staff, or we can ask Duke Energy people to come back up to the mic to answer these questions at this time. I'd like to first recognize Councilmember Scroggy Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot of material here that has been shared from both the public, the town, and Duke Energy. And I'm really grateful that Duke Energy is here tonight. I'm not sure who's best suited to answer some of my questions, but I have a list of about 8 items, and I'm sure the council probably all have the same ones or a little bit different. So I'm just going to dig right in. First of all, the town has worked tirelessly on land use plans and transportation plans and park plans and so forth, and we've documented the plans going forward and what the land should be used for and the purposes and so forth. And I think those plans are public, and the stakeholders, NCDOT, Duke Energy, all of our stakeholders that support our infrastructure have been made aware of that. I sit here tonight and I can't believe that we're proposing the expansion of a substation in a non-conforming area when there is a lot of commercial real estate along McCrimmon Parkway, along some other areas that were former green spaces that we've opened up. And now we're returning to a residential area that has been neighborhood, low density and medium density residential for over 20 years. It does not fit, in my opinion. Today, it is a different world. We do need power. We are having brownouts in California. We are having brownouts in the Carolinas. This last December, we had very cold weather, and parts of the South were affected. Capacity for electric power across our region is a serious concern. Yet, I think that we can locate substations in areas that are not going to be harmful to certain areas. We have to look at capacity, but we have to look at capacity in a safe way. If you're living every day next to a substation, there is noise. There is electric radiation everywhere, but it is constant. It is not just like if you're operating your microwave 24 hours a day. That's a different reading than just operating it once or twice to prepare a meal. So I think there is a gap in my understanding, and I have not yet had the opportunity to read the report that was provided to the council. So I apologize that maybe some of that information is in that report. But I am very, very concerned. I live in Savannah, which is neighbors with Ridgemont and Addison Park. And I take walks every day through those neighborhoods. And I see sometimes the lawn isn't cut along the Duke property when you go along Leah Croft Way. So the concerns about maintenance and management are valid, in my opinion, because I personally see this. I'm concerned. So now to my list. I'll get off my speech box here. I would like to know why there was no alternatives offered except for this project. I would like to know if there are future substation expansions in the town of Morrisville, what those could be. Could we accelerate those projects and postpone this one so that we can have some choices support the need for electricity, but maybe not in a residential neighborhood area, so that we could understand and appreciate better? Do we have to use the existing technology? I really like the idea of thinking about, is there better technology for this site that would be more efficient and have less of a footprint? That's really a scientific question, but this is an older site with older technology. I do not support improving the road access to a paved access, because the gravel road is permeable. And in order to reduce the stormwater requirements, you need permeable pavement. What better permeable source is a gravel road? So I am not in support of creating concrete everywhere. If we can make that an exception, if the council would consider that, I think that would help reduce some of those requirements for stormwater. I do think that real estate is impacted. I did not hear in the analysis that the substation evaluation was on 20-year-old houses that were next to the Apple campus. We are a unique town that is very fortunate to have such great businesses surrounding us in a very vibrant community. Notification, I too would like to know what the notification was for the neighbors. There are certain state laws that require notification within a certain proximity, and I'm sure Duke did follow that. They might not have extended past beyond that, but it would be nice to understand how many households were notified. And I think I'll stop there because I know everybody else has the same questions I do, so thank you.
Okay. I think we'll accumulate all the questions rather than have them be addressed at once, because there might be some duplication.
I don't want to interrupt, yeah.
No. All 7 of us would like to speak on this topic, and I'm going to recognize people as I saw the blue things come up. So I have Mayor Pro Tem next, followed by Councilmember Garamella. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So I get Councilmember Scroggins Johnson probably asked most of my questions. I just want to make sure. I'm not sure, and if she said this, I'm going to repeat it anyhow. Does Duke, and this is a question, I'd like some information, does Duke have the readings from equivalent type substations in existence today? I think that was a question the residents asked about, the before and after EMS readings and with the ranges. I mean, context is important. And I think that was one of the questions I heard. And let me back up a minute. I want to tell the residents, you are being heard. I hope you feel that. I know a couple of you have said that, and I appreciate the comments that some of us did have the opportunity to meet with you. We've not all had that opportunity, but we will, and we're here listening, and you should know that. We are listening to you. I have pages of notes, and I know my fellow colleagues do too. So I hope you feel that. But the before and after EMS readings are important. The other thing, there was a question about long-term exposure studies, if anything like that exists, that we can reference, that would be really helpful. And also the visual look of this. I know in the packet, there was an example in Holly Springs. Is that what we can assume the proposed expansion would look like here on the Morrisville site? I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. If that's what why that was in there, that would be helpful to know. And maybe, again, that may be in this packet, but we have not had the opportunity to read this. So we need some time, and we need to make this available to the public as well in a soft copy. Of course, you can all have it in a hard copy too, but I think, so I'd like it in a soft copy, quite frankly. I think Councilmember Scroggins Johnson brought up about new technology, why and why not. It would be important to understand that for sure. And then obviously the noise, the humming versus, currently versus what could be in the future. And then the last thing I'm going to bring up, because I know others want to jump into, is the alternative plans and options. Why not expansion to the south? Why not expansion to the east? Although you go to the east and we get a little closer to the residents in Ridgemont, so I'm not sure I think that's a favorable option. But why not expansion to the south on this particular property? And then any future plans that you can share with us about this site or other sites and timeframes would be helpful. Sorry, I'm looking, I have multiple pages of notes. So, and I want to make sure, I'm going to repeat this too, because I know we talked about this the other night when the residents met with Duke, and it was mentioned here today, but Duke is willing to come out and do current EMF readings on properties. So please, if you have not already taken advantage of that opportunity, do it and make that request of Duke so we can at least have that information. And then, I'm going to just reiterate, that information is useless when we can't compare it to EMF readings in a comparable substation site somewhere else that's going to be equivalent to what you're proposing for this expansion, so we can have comparisons. Comparisons are going to be really important. And I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilmember Garamella, followed by Councilmember Rabati, please.
Thanks, Mayor. A lot of things have been already talked about, but the thing that's really striking me is the alternatives. What are the alternatives? We understand the need of the power. I know for sure, like when Apple Campus was signed, I think it was somewhere in the article I read that the governor had said we will have uninterrupted power supply, and that was the reason they came to RTP. That was one of the things they said. And we understand the growth of Morrisville and power is needed. But my question is more towards the residents, like what kind of precautions can we take? And like option one in this paper, whoever gave it to me, I think is a good option. I wanted to ask with our staff and Duke, if they can work together, and if we have to bend some of the UDO rules, I would be willing to do that, because if it helps the neighbors in a right way. Like, I understand the impervious surface, but our UDO right now has to have
It requires
paved roads.
it, yes.
They won't allow any gravel, and that's the reason. And and the stormwater pond that we are putting there. So some of the things we are doing, I'm ready to compromise on some of these, and the tree production, so that give them more on the other side and have more on the Morrisville Carpenter side. That would be a compromise, but that is something I think I want the staff to work with Duke and look at alternatives and then come back with us, because all we have is one option and yes or no. And with all the people, and I know the experts who have said the EMF is not an issue. It is and it is not. I had my own personal experiences, but everyone has their own perspective, but I do feel like that has to be considered. But again, I don't want to go again, but I like to have our staff work with the Duke and look for alternatives to use option one or something that we can compromise on our UDO side to ensure we can get a comparable situation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councilmember Rabati, followed by Councilmember Rao, please.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to thank the members of the public that are here. I appreciated hearing your thoughts. I did want to mention that Councilmember Fender and I both intended to go to the meeting that was last Thursday, I believe. We unfortunately were both exposed to COVID on New Year's Eve and could not attend that meeting, but I do have a stack of my business cards, which I'll place right here. You can pick one up on your way out, and if you want to talk to me about this, I'm happy to talk to you. Having said that, Some of us had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Clayton one-on-one last week, and I personally was very specific about what I was hoping to see in the Duke Energy presentation tonight. I was hoping to see the property value question. The questions I had around property values were in comparably sized cities where transformer capacity and transformer footprint was doubled. What was the effect on property values? Possibly that's in this report. I won't know until tomorrow, but it was not in Mr. Morris's summary. And I have the same question that one of the residents asked. I would also like to know, I think it's an excellent question, why the power lines can't go underground. And I see right here on this map that one of the options for the transformer was exactly what Councilmember Fender just asked for, which was to put it closer to the road. And so I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't take that option. I'm sure that there's a great reason for it.
Well, just to be clear, that piece of paper was created by the residents and presented to us. That's not part of Duke Energy's presentation to us.
Oh, okay.
So just to
all right.
clarify that.
I still think that option one is a great option on this piece of paper, so good job there. And then I'd like to know if, I would like to see the EMF testing. I know that the residents have a right to it, but I'd like to go out there for myself with someone from Duke at 8 a.m., at 6 p.m., and just understand what the level of what the magnetic level is, whatever the name for that is, understand what the level is, how it drops as you get outside of the, as you get further and further from the substation, and what we can expect the projected output to be from the new substation. I have the same question that was asked by a resident around future plans for this substation. So if we double it now, I don't want to have to hear in 5 years that we have to double it again. So I'd like to understand the comprehensive plan to have enough energy in Morrisville without similar disruptions to a residential neighborhood. And I have notes all over it's like you're looking through your notes. I know I have 1,000 questions and I have 1,000 notes also. But I would be interested in understanding, I haven't heard any discussion of a regulatory body that regulates EMF levels. And if such a body exists, and if there are safety levels, then I would like to understand what they are and how this property compares to them. And then the last thing, the noise. Okay, yes. I hadn't even thought about the noise. I have never lived next to a substation. That was not something that was on my mind. I do live right in the flight path of the RDU, Go Breckenridge, but I did not think about the noise of the substation, and I would like to understand what the projected noise level is and how disruptive, just what's the decibel level. And I can understand for myself what decibel levels are annoying, are intrusive. So I would like that information very much. Thank you. Moving on.
Thank you very much. This time, Councilmember Rao, followed by Councilmember Fender, and myself.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Most of my questions have already been asked, but I first of all want to thank the residents of Allison and Ridgemont for coming out. Today, I'm not here only as a council member, but I see many of my neighbors and friends here, so I'm also very concerned as a resident, and I really want to thank them for coming to the meetings that we've had and gone to your homes. Thank Duke Energy for being here as well and for responding to those requests to get information. Excuse me. My biggest concern at the end of the day, and just would like to know, why there's such an aggressive timeline for this. Duke Energy really believes that this is critically essential to our continued growth. It is a bit alarming that residents haven't been given enough time to process a lot of this information. And maybe that's not only, like Marty Clayton said in his presentation, just the significant growth that we've had, that we haven't been factoring enough the infrastructure demands from an energy perspective. And that maybe that's a state of North Carolina problem as well, in terms of the fact that we're bringing in all these companies and we don't have enough energy and infrastructure to back it up. But that's one question I would like to continue to hear from Duke and our staff is, how could we go about like a whole year last year and no one know that this was coming? And then you bring this up in December, and I'm not trying to throw the staff under the bus, but just the reality is that we didn't get briefed on this, and now we're being forced to make a decision when all these questions that people have are still not answered. So I would like to make sure that whatever time we need to get these questions answered, I think all of the council, or at least I would be very, very happy with that. Second thing is, I've heard that we've had examples of other substations close to residential communities, but I'd like to, if maybe this has already been mentioned, a list of those communities. Are there any in Wake County that we can look at? Can we look at what the EMF output was there? How, are there any close to Morrisville that we can talk to our neighbors about and see how this has impacted those communities? And then I like the option that was provided to us, as Councilmember Garamella and others have alluded to, but, and maybe Duke Energy has already looked for other options out there, but could there be other options? And as Councilmember Garamella said, working with the UDO, maybe tweaking a little bit so that we could address some of these concerns, move it a little bit farther away from the residential. At the end of the day, the other concern that I have is that, and I'm not trying to, direct this to Marty Clayton and his team, but perhaps this is a Duke Energy problem from the management. If I was speaking to your CEO, Lynn Good, I would want to know, how can you continue to grow your company and support economic development if you don't have the infrastructure and the resources to do that? And now you're pushing the brunt on to the residents. And so I really want you to convey that message to Lynn Good, your CEO, and I'll give you my card if you could give it to her, because I'd like to, talk to her about that directly, to the top executives at Duke Energy. I think that I have that right as a council member, and I think that the residents of Morrisville have a right to talk to your top executives. And like I said, I'm not trying to throw Marty Clayton as a friend of mine. He's a leader in our community. But my question is, this is business, and I want to know kind of why we're being put in that. And the final thing is that, and I'll close with this because I probably have more questions and I could talk about this for an hour. But, I was researching in 2018, a Court of Appeals court in New York actually ruled that residences could, that were afraid of lower property value could sue for damages. And so it just brought me, what if that were to happen in North Carolina? Duke is putting themselves in a situation where if the courts were to intervene and those kinds of things, is that a concern, right? Now, I've spoken to so many of our residents and neighbors that would never do something like that or want this to work, which I want to thank everyone who came. I think they're just asking for, what can they be given or compensated, or what kind of agreements can we enter into to address and the final thing is the EMF, which, and the property values. I mean, we can have an appraisal done, but the fact is, if someone came and wanted to buy a house near a substation, they're going to say, well, I'm not going to pay as much for the house. And I've seen the studies that say that the risk is probably minimal for magnetic radiation, but it's always concerning just about people with any of us. Are we exposing ourselves to a higher risk of getting cancer? How many times we hear that, I'm from West Virginia, and lots of cancer from where I grew up in Charleston out of just nowhere. And now they're saying, well, maybe there were chemicals getting in the water. Maybe we didn't know. Maybe we didn't monitor that. So that's always kind of really scary. I don't think it's that extreme, but I think the EMF data that you could provide as closely to what's been asked tonight could really address those concerns. But that's all I have for now. I mean, I do want to thank the team at Duke Energy for coming to a number of our meetings, and hopefully we can work, and if the staff wants to intervene tonight or make some comments about some of the issues we've addressed. But that's all I have now, but I'm going to need more information, longer period of time to make a decision. I have been asked whether, and I'm going to turn to my council attorney, whether there's, for the public record and for those listening, whether there's a conflict of interest because I live in the community. But if I don't have anything to gain economically, does that mean that I don't qualify for a conflict? Because I would actually think it's probably better. I would prefer not voting on this issue because I live in the community and it's very hard to. But what, I mean,
That's a good
no
question.
conflict of interest, is it? Council member, I would say.
The impact on you would be no different than the impact on residents of the subdivision. So you would not have any peculiar.
Has to be a peculiar, because that question's been asked me by some members of the public, and I wanted to make sure that I said it at the public today so that they knew.
I do not see a conflict.
That's all I have for now. Sorry I went over my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fender, please, followed by myself.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank the public for coming in today and talking and sharing your concerns. I hear you and I'm with you. It blows my mind that the Planning and Zoning Board approved this plan from Duke Energy. I've already shared this once and I'm reiterating, a lot of the members of the public have asked the same question, is why was the town council and the PZB board presented with only one option? I think the current plan that has been presented is, as it is now, is unacceptable. And that should be like the last choice that we look at. I think our first choice should be looking at land that is along McCrimmon Extension where there's plenty of room. I'm sure that option is more expensive for Duke Energy compared to expanding an existing site. I imagine that the plan that Duke Energy has presented is the easiest and cheapest for them, but it's at a cost at our residents, and you're sacrificing our residents for profits. Considering all the stories we've heard in the news from Duke Energy over the past few years, I just, between the coal ash leaks in the Dan River, and then just recently in December, Duke Energy not being prepared for the peak power that was required New Year's Eve, and having to have rolling blackouts because not all of their generators were online, and they were not prepared. I just do not have a faith in Duke Energy, and it's disappointing that it's disappointing to see the plan that they have presented, because you're throwing the residents under the bus for the benefit of Duke Energy, where we should be looking at either expanding a substation somewhere else. I don't know if you can expand to the west of the substation near Church Street Park, or otherwise build a new substation closer to the McCrimmon Extension area. And the last comment, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but why, all the buildings that are being built along McCrimmon Extension, why are we not pushing them to install solar panels on every single one of them? Why doesn't Wake Competition Center have solar panels? Why don't all the warehouses in that area have solar panels? Duke Energy needs to be pushing for that. Our town needs to be pushing for that more. I know that's not gonna solve all our energy problems, but it can certainly offset some of our requirements. But as Duke Energy's plan has been submitted today, I just think it's not acceptable. I will not be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to also thank Duke Energy for being here, thank the residents for their time and their energy. I know it takes a lot of energy, and you probably feel some frustration, and I understand that. So I just have a couple of quick things. I just want to state that it seems to me like if I was a resident living right there, I wouldn't want to see it, I wouldn't want to hear it, I wouldn't want it to affect my property values, and I wouldn't want it to affect my health. So there's a number of things there, but I think that's the crux. And if we can address each of those, that would be helpful. But just having said that, I'd like to know if the applicant would be willing to add the condition that all uses other than major utility are prohibited as part of this conditional rezoning request, because there was a concern in the future, is something else going to be there? So that's something that I've mentioned to Duke. That wasn't in the package, though. So that's just something I'd like the council to consider requesting. Everything that we're doing here is conditional and it's voluntary, but if we hold fast to certain items, we're going to get a little bit more response from Duke. And I would like to also ask if the applicant would voluntarily add the condition of providing additional new tree plantings along the perimeter of the property between the subdivision and the homes to the north to replace any trees which are removed. Essentially, the goal is to screen the view of the substation as completely as possible with native species trees and provide additional sound attenuation as the substation will be significantly closer to the homes. So hopefully that can address those first two things. The property values, I mean, I see the position that Duke's in. They cannot admit that property values are going to go down. That would open up a can of worms legally for them forever. So I think in my gut, I know that this doesn't help property values. I think we all realize that. They're not in a position that they could admit that. So that's just being pragmatic. About the health, in the readings, I don't think there's a regulatory authority, but I'd love Duke to actually address that directly. About EMF, you hear that it's not really a negative effect. I also asked them directly if it's possible to have the readings done. They said tonight that when they have the list complete, they'll give us the readings. I think the ability to take those readings, there's 10 straight lines to those 10 houses. You do not need to know everyone's names. You could take those readings every 15 feet. You could also do sound readings. I would like to make the direct request that you don't have to wait till the property owners give you permission, because you're staying on your own property, to just take those readings and present them as soon as possible. Do not wait until the 24th. Let's start to have the information in a timely manner going forward, and that will help you, help everyone understand that we're working together to address this. Also, did not hear any talk about option one. There's been lots of talk of going to the south. At a recent meeting in these chambers, it was mentioned can't do it because of a switch. We need a technical paper about why it can't go south. If that was looked at, just show us your research and let us know why it's not going to the south or to the southeast. I would also agree with Councilmember Garavella. I am willing to look at our UDO and make exceptions where necessary to try to make this work. I heard some really good talk about another location in town. There is land where it'd be more appropriate near the commercial that's actually needing all this energy. I would love to know, and I know it's really difficult to talk about real estate acquisition. We understand the school system doesn't tell us what they're buying until it's done. We're in the same position as a town trying to acquire land. So I know that's a sticky situation, but it might be more expensive, but it might help. So those are my thoughts at this time. We have another 2 weeks before we can possibly make a decision. As a group, we might delay that more. We'll have to wait and see. So everyone's had a chance to ask their questions. I see that you'd like to make a second round. Do you want to do that after they try to address some of these directly, or what are your thoughts?
So I only got a couple of quick things, but I'm good either way.
Okay, if I could ask you to just hold back so we don't do another round of 7. And we'd love to hear Duke address some of these as directly as possible right now, because 2 weeks is a long way off. And like I said, the measurements and readings, it sounded like a field trip was requested. If any of us can be there when that happens, as long as it's not 4 of us, I think I would like to take advantage of that too, if it's safe and possible. So, sir, appreciate your time.
Sure. So to start with, what was your first question? There's a lot of information, so we
Well, I
try to
think the
take down
big one
everything.
is why this location, why not alternatives? Option 1 was presented right here. I think that would be something that if you could address that directly.
Sure, absolutely. So we did look at alternatives. We did look at going to the south, but as you mentioned, there were challenges that the south option poses. Firstly, we couldn't keep that switch and all the work that's confined, that's required for this substation expansion on our property. In order for us to go south, we would then have to take some of this impact that would be on solely our property and impact another neighborhood. That is one challenge right there.
So what?
Which neighborhood?
In other words,
like over the street?
It's not just over the street, but in another neighborhood. So we had to take that into consideration too, because now you're not just impacting property that we would own, and we would now be going to another neighborhood where we don't own that property.
Can you give us
Yeah,
further
respectfully,
details on that?
I
Show
don't
us on
understand what you mean at all by
Show
that.
us on a map that, because I'm not sure how that's.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to call upon our line engineer to go into more detail to discuss the alternatives he's talked about, but that is one of the reasons. The other question you had was, have we looked at alternatives? We did look at alternatives. We looked at whether we could expand the RTP substation, which is near the cricket pitch, but that already has 2 banks built out. So, we did look at alternatives prior to coming to this rezoning. William, could you please explain the challenges you're facing with?
Hope it's okay for the council. So are you saying at the Duke property near Church Street, that won't be expanded in the future?
I can't guarantee that.
Well, then why can't you do it there? If it's not prohibited there, why can't you just expand it there?
Well, we're trying to meet the load as where it's needed, first of all. That's another challenge. So that's why we have substations all throughout the state, 50 plus in Wake County.
Are there 3 bank stations anywhere?
I don't have that information right offhand, so I can't answer that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, Councilman. William Parrish, transmission line engineer with Duke Energy. So what Nuwan was referring to is a line switch, and that would be on the main line. So that, I don't know if we can pull up. Can I adjust?
If you do the picture on the screen, then we can all see it better than you on this. There should be a mouse there.
We're just full of technical issues tonight.
Okay, so currently with the northern option, there's currently 2 switches in existence today. And again, I'm talking on this main line going north to south. I believe it's off the page. There's a line switch here, and there's currently a line switch here. For this new proposal, we would need a line switch in between the two tap lines, and by tap line, meaning the lines going from this main line to the substation. So we would have this new one here, and the existing one, we would need a line switch here represented. This area here. So that's the northern option to go to the, in order to go, if we were to go to the south, obviously the tap line would then be to the south. We would need a line switch to the south of that tap line. With the station, it would be roughly in this area. Tap line here. There was not, so first option would be to look to put a line switch on our property. There was no real, there wasn't a good spot to put the switch from an engineering standpoint on this property. I don't have the image here, but going further south over Morrisville Carpenter Road, there are environmental challenges on that side. Going further, so we can put the switch within a mile of a tap, and it still be within Duke Energy standards. So pushing it further, there was, I believe it's an apartment or complex beyond that, and then further beyond that is a golf course. So those options were looked at. So strictly from a transmission line engineering standpoint, that was the reasoning from that standpoint.
Johnson, do you have a direct question to what he just said, or is that for later?
Mine's related to location of expansion as well, but it's, I mean, I see this as a quick win because they have existing property and they can manage it the best without the least amount of easements being acquired and so forth. However, I think I just want to know more about the Church Street station. Is it at capacity? Can it be expanded? Can it buy them 2 years in order to build a new substation somewhere where they can, meet the future needs instead of just expanding this and destroying a lot of the, neighborhood enjoyment and use, so.
So it's not just about capacity, it's also about distributing this capacity. Distribution feeders at this location are on the verge of being overloaded. So that's another reason why it needs to be here, because we need to have more
This area, I'm sorry, but this area is built out. It's been built out for at least 10 years. So I don't understand why there's an emergent need at this location for distribution when this area has been the most mature versus Church Street Park and going forward towards the Apple campus. That's the rapidly expanding Morrisville. This has been very stable. I'm sorry, but maybe I don't understand.
Can I ask about the switch again, too?
I want to bring you back to this map. So this is directly from the town of Morrisville's own website. And you can see the legend here. This is our site right here.
Is the town of Cary also in your analysis? Because the Morrisville area has been mature. Cary has been developing like crazy on these borders. And that's where I think the load demand is coming from. And I'm kind of disappointed.
Just pointing out, this is where we got this map from. This is from the town of Morrisville. This is our substation right here. These are all the properties that are under review for construction. Projects, excuse me. proximity to the substation.
Help us if you were to show us the substations and what's served by what. Like if all that blue and purple in the middle is served by the substation, it makes your argument stronger. Okay.
We'd have to go back and try to, I don't have that information here.
And also Cary. I think Cary is in play here.
Right, with Savon.
Savon, there's a new apartment complex next to the Grace Park Hospital, which is technically Cary.
Okay, so that would also support your argument if there's something right over our border that you're also serving, because you don't care about borders, you're just trying to serve all the community. I'd love to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson about the switch, because I have some follow-up on that too. Better understand, because this is a new term for us. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I just want to understand, you said from an engineering standpoint, the switch would not be on your property and you need to go off your property. Is that, do you have distance requirements, or I'm just trying to understand?
Have design requirements that they have to meet as well.
Because I'm looking at I'm looking at Google Maps right now to see from the aerial, and I'm trying to understand why you can't go south.
I mean, it's not that we can't go south. There are challenges with going south. Currently, like on the property, to go south and keep it on our property, there'd be extensive changes needed in order to keep that switch, and an additional design work research to determine if, in fact, we could put the switch. But currently, it's looking like from an engineering standpoint, we could not put the switch on the property. So we would have to go south with that switch on the main line, again, on the main line.
Councilmember Rabati?
Yeah, if you could go back to the map where you showed where with the gray box, where we're showing like the old stuff and the new stuff. Okay, great. So did I understand you to say that you could put the new transformer, whatever it is, immediately to the south of the current one, but that you don't own land that would be required for the switch that would connect it to the current infrastructure? Is that, did I get that right?
So we have Duke Energy owns an easement that this portion going north to south.
Okay.
And going south, the switch would be on Duke Energy's easement.
So what I'm asking is, if you so right now, the new substation is over, for purposes of the map, is on top of the current substation.
Right.
To move it to the bottom, you talked about to move it right there. Was that the technical issue that you were discussing where you would have to go off of your property?
No, ma'am. That was just a point to make. If the station was to go here, we would need a tap line also to the south, because our tap line would need to then run approximately in this area.
Right. And is there a technical reason, a energy related, or whatever, a scientific reason that you can't do that?
In addition to this,
okay,
you do have a substation here. There's also issues of reliability that would be impacted. And in addition, the existing substation that's there right now, Bhumi, maybe you can come and explain what would happen to that substation in addition to just expanding. I just want to make sure everybody understands.
yeah. I just want to understand what the problem was with that alternative specifically.
Why we can't just put a bigger.
Right now, this two so each one is 25. 30 kV on the high side and 24 kV is the maximum distribution. So that's the thing. If we even install higher rating of transformer, which normally we don't, because our standard is 44.8 MVA, and transformer is 50 MVA. If we do that, then again the output will be the same. It's 24.
But is it bigger? If you have a stronger one, is it the same amount of land used for the 100 total as it would be two? That was the question.
Recognize Councilwoman Bravati because she has the questioning floor right now.
Okay, so you're saying that there's no configuration, there's no potential reconfiguration of the things that are in the way of that are in the way of the connection that would make the substations redundant?
Are you saying that if we
Yeah. I'm saying there's no way to reconfigure that substation so that you could use it in that way and put the second substation immediately to the south of that one. I understand that it's not the ideal from your perspective, but I'm asking, can it be done?
there are a couple of issues going on here. It's not
We did look at this.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Mayor, I do have one other thing, I'm sorry. I have one other thing, I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question about, is there a potential to use new technology, like a solar farm or something of that sort, to mitigate some of the power issues? Okay. I see. Thank you. Makes power. Yes. Got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, I'm just asking a little bit further questions, the line of questioning that Councilmember Robati was on. So I understand that to expand to the south, there's some challenges there with possibly equipment in the way. If that was overcome, it sounds like there's a second challenge with the line switch in the easement. You said there were some engineering challenges there. Can you give us a little more detail there? I mean, are the engineering challenges insurmountable, or is there some sort of solution?
Very bad idea.
Well, what about just to the north of Morrisville Carpenter? You pointed it out when you were looking, or when you were presenting that, and you said there were some engineering challenges. So what were they?
One would be raising the line high enough to make sure that there was electrical clearance between the line and the switch.
But could it be done? So why aren't we, I mean, maybe it's a little more difficult, but why aren't we looking?
It's a possibility. Let me back up. It might be able to be done. Not saying it's we'd have to look at it in extreme detail to make sure that it can be done. I can't say for 100% sure, but I mean it. Also, I can't say if it's just an electrical clearance issue, but that was one of the major.
Well, I think it's worth it to look at, even if it's more challenging, to look at that option to see whether those challenges can be overcome for the benefit of the residents.
If we could zoom out on the same frame, I'd appreciate it just a little bit, because you talk about needing essentially 3 switches. If you could just give us a quick review, what does a switch do? Why is it important? A couple sentences, just so we understand what's going on. And I'm assuming it has to be to the south of the tap line.
A switch essentially just isolates power. It breaks the circuit, and we need in this case, just as an example, I'll use the north as an example. So again, there's a switch to the north currently. If we could imagine that this new tap line is not there. So currently we have a switch to the north of the existing tap line here, and there's again a switch to the south of that existing tap line. Let's just, for example's sake, if you opened both of those switches and broke the circuit, this line here would be de-energized. So it allows us to isolate lines, open and close break circuits. So with the new line, we would want a switch in between the tap lines, so that then each circuit or each tap line would be able to be isolated individually. Because if we did not have this middle switch, and you opened both switches, one to the north here and one to the south, both lines wouldn't have control over each circuit. So again, for example, if you did not have this switch in the middle, you opened or broke the circuit here to the north, broke the circuit here to the south. Let's just say for maintenance purposes, both of these lines would be de-energized, and such the station would also be de-energized.
switch on either side of the tap line. So by adding a tap line, you're just going to need one more switch. Imagine with me right now, if you take the existing tap line and you were to point it upward like this other one is, and essentially take that path, and then you have the southern substation, it comes across, and then it goes up also and ends up where your current one is, power line. You address that issue and you can keep the switches.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Essentially, take the existing tap line, you have it go up to the north where the new tap line would hit the main transmission. You have a new southern substation that comes east a little bit on the tap line and then goes up to where the existing tap line is hitting the power line. So your switches are in the same places as you're proposing now. Helps not affect the residents.
We'd have to look at that option.
Strongly suggest you look at that option. We talked about this, Marty. Looking to work with you. Councilmember Garamella.
Yeah, my question is pretty much more in line with the switching. Like, we as town are ready to compromise on some of the UDO. So you guys are telling you have your, Duke standards. Can you bend anything on your side to have a middle ground that would make this work, to have it south side? Is the question, because I'm not an engineer. I'm an engineer, but I don't want to design here the stuff. It's not my job and it's not my expertise. But the key is, you guys know the answers, you know the hurdles. Give us a solution, and from our point of view, if a hurdle is from a UDO standpoint of view, I'm sure many of my colleagues will be ready to bend those rules.
At different locations, what we're keeping in mind is, are we impacting another neighborhood? Trying to be mindful of
Yeah, and that's a question. That's a thing that I'm not able to understand, because we have Morrisville Carpenter. It's now the matter of where your switch has to be so that you can tap the line to the south side. And why would it impact the other side of the road is my question, because the substation is there. Let the humming be next to Morrisville Carpenter. Let the EMF be there. People have no issues with that. So why you think it's an issue, and affecting, because you have a 100-feet road, and then you have that buffer and all those things. So, and it's a transient crowd. No one is staying there like a static, like a house there. People are going in a car and just moving on. So why? I'm basically asking, or pretty much begging you guys, and give us an alternative that you think can be done, or what you can bend from your side to have that a common ground so that we can make it happen. That's all. Again. Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
Of course, sir. Yes.
I really appreciate the feedback that we've heard this evening. We will certainly continue to take this under advisement. And as you had mentioned, Councilman, we do want to work with you. We want to work with the neighbors. We want to work with our communities. We want to continue to demonstrate and show and look at this. So we appreciate that. We've heard a lot of additional information here this evening, and we will again like to take this under advisement, and we will be prepared to come back to you.
Okay, I appreciate that, because we are here to help and we are ready to work with you. That's all. The residents are here.
I would like to at least address the question of, why here as opposed to in more of the commercial districts where the growth is occurring, because I think it's important that we understand that. As we had mentioned when we met with the neighborhood the other evening, you know, and again, I'm going to put it in this analogy because I can understand it, okay? But in my way of expressing this, think of the transmission corridor here, the transmission lines as basically an interstate highway. And think of the substations as an interchange off of that interstate highway for the members of the council. We have to have a location along a transmission corridor. If we don't have a substation location along the transmission corridor, then we have to then we will end up building a transmission line to get to it. And that causes additional challenges because if you're essentially building an interstate highway through a neighborhood, through a commercial area. So there are challenges beyond what you have seen this evening, but I just wanted to mention that. But again, I think if you would allow us to take what we have heard here this evening, and we've got some additional opportunities. We need to take what we've heard and be prepared to come back to the council if you would allow us for that to take place.
I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, who's been really patient and got everything up for all follow-up.
Just a couple of things I want to make sure for myself that we're all clear on, and to clarify. When we talked about the screening and you talked about additional planting of additional trees and all, I think we need to know a little bit more about detail about that screening and that it be evergreen screening. So I just want to make sure that that's out there. There's also this question about how the public was notified, and we talked about 100 feet notification, and I thought it was 500 feet. So we need to clarify that, make sure that's out there for the public as well. And then I really want to clarify this comment that was made a while ago about why the town of Morrisville staff is bringing this to us so quickly. And this is really important. I want to make this clear. The town of Morrisville staff are not Duke Energy employees. The town of Morrisville staff does not manage, control, expand, anything to do with energy. Your town of Morrisville staff brought this to council as soon as they knew about it. So I want to make sure that you all are clear on that too. That came to council's attention as soon as they were aware. So I want you to feel good about the work that your staff is doing on your behalf and that your council is working on your behalf as well. And then the last thing I want to say, I do want to thank Duke Energy for being here and for listening, hearing all the questions. You've still got a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I also want to thank the public for their approach to this issue. You have done a phenomenal job, and I thank you very much for how courteous you have been, how dogged you have been on this issue since you knew about it. And I really appreciate the effort that you all have put in because you are helping in this whole process. So thank you for that.
We appreciate the effort you made so far. We're looking forward to appreciate the effort to answer each of the questions that you've heard from both residents and us. As quickly as you can. You don't have to wait till 23rd because we're meeting on the 24th. Any information you have would be really great to have it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Summarized pretty well how a lot of us feel about this. So we'll back to your seats.
Thank you.
Come back up and facilitate the closeout of this one for tonight. I want to recognize town staff leadership as well. If they have any thoughts or comments at this time as part of your closing, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so I tried to keep track of the questions. The first one I want to go over is notification. So you are correct. It is 500 feet for us, but I think Duke did 100 feet according to their, but town staff did not. We did 500. And I'm going to give you those dates right now. So we mailed our notices on 12/21. We posted an internet notice on 12/16. We put notice in the newspaper, the News and Observer, on 12/19 and 12/26. We posted a sign on site, and that was on 12/14. So that's our notification.
Also, put that in an email to all of us.
Absolutely.
That'd be great, and also notify residents that we have emails. We all took notes on that, but
That last part, Mayor.
everyone did their legal requirements. Their requirement was 100, ours was 500. All that was covered.
Yeah, so I don't know about any legal requirement from the applicant. I believe they do not have, in the UDO, there is nothing that required them to do anything for this rezoning. But staff is required, and those 4 requirements of notification, we did do. Yeah.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Then there was a question that why can this request come as a nonconformity? And in the UDO specifically, it states a nonconformity is allowed to exist, but no expansion of the nonconformity can occur unless doing so can serve as an incentive to achievement of an even greater public benefit. So that would be your parameter that you as council would need to find. Is this, would this expansion serve as an incentive where you would achieve an even greater public benefit? So that is that. And then you talked about actual UDO standards and regulations. There are definitely, we cannot bend rules, but there are definitely avenues to make modifications and amendments and things like that. So staff is absolutely open to finding those avenues.
Russell, just to follow up on that, so we're not able to do it on a case-by-case basis? We have to adjust the UDO as a whole?
No. So what I just wanted to address that staff cannot, so to speak, bend rules, but we can find modification and ways to amend certain standards if it is available to us as staff, not as town council members, to modify, say, gravel at the front, something like that. I just wanted to let everybody know. I hope that's clear.
Be able to bring things forward to us that
Absolutely.
say, yes, that's okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're okay with us not enforcing that.
Yes.
Awesome. You have something
Yeah,
to
hey,
add to
Sue,
that?
thanks. Hey, Chris Lawson, Planning Manager. Yeah, there are certain things that can be worked out via voluntary conditions. And really wanted to ask, are these questions you would like us to follow up with via email or next meeting or answered tonight?
I think it's more of a follow-up, like if what they want to propose going forward has things that aren't strictly within the UDO, but staff feels like the council might be okay with, using your best judgment.
Sure, thank you.
Okay? Okay. Please continue, Ms. Buck.
Hey, there was a comment about solar panels, and solar was not a requirement, so it wasn't something that we looked at as a requirement, but obviously can be offered up by Duke. Those were the only things that really were staff related, so I wanted to address them. Do you guys have any further questions of me?
Helping navigating. I know staff spent a lot of time working with Duke on this as well. And we do really
Thank you so much.
No, we'll keep it open.
I think we're going to decide as a group to keep it open. Do we need a formal motion to keep it open? Announcing that this public hearing will remain open until the 24th and perhaps after that. Okay, that announcement being done. I think we're done with this item. At this time, we are due for a break. We're overdue. We will take a anything from Town Manager on this? Okay, thank you. We'll reconvene in 15 minutes at 9:30. Once again, we, as a group, would like to thank you, and we'd like to thank the residents for their engagement and participation. Thank you all very much. See you at 9:30. 30 p.m. We're coming back into order. We are at item 11, future meetings, events, and citizen involvement opportunities. I'm going to abbreviate this. The Western Wake Farmers Market offers healthy and fresh food every Saturday from 9:30 a.m. till 12 noon. There's a Martin Luther King Day of Service this Friday, January 13th, from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. We invite the public to go ahead and check our social media to see if there's any spots available to donate blood. A big need in our community. Public is also invited to provide feedback on commuter rail study, their future plans. Go Triangle has lots of social media out there. There are 3 different options that they're looking for feedback on commuter rail. I've already given my feedback. I like the central area, which includes Morrisville, RTP, and Raleigh. We're hoping that a lot of people share their thoughts into that study. The Morrisville Senior Center will host a Fight the Fall workshop for seniors on January 18th at 11 a.m. The workshop will discuss the importance of balance and provide tips on how to prevent falls. The town is growing and your opinion matters. Advisory committees offer residents a chance to be involved in the town's decision-making processes by providing input on important matters to town council. The deadline to apply is Wednesday, February 1st at 5 p.m. Apply now on the town website. Contact Town Clerk Eric Smith with any questions. Our yard waste pickup day is tomorrow, Wednesday, January 11th. But if you wish to give your undecorated Christmas tree a chance to become part of our local Wake County Greenway system as mulch, please consider recycling your Christmas tree by dropping it off at designated locations until January 22nd. Morrisville residents can drop their trees off at Lake Crabtree County Park. You can follow signs to the rear parking lot. The entrance is at 1400 Aviation Parkway, Morrisville. And one thing I'd like to do, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Rabati, who made that request for the remainder of the meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Rabati. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries 6-0. She is now formally excused. At this time, we're at item 12, Council and Manager comments. I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, followed by Councilmember Garamella.
So I'll be short since it's late and we've gone over the time we thought we would tonight. I just have 2 comments. One, yesterday was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And so I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to our police department for all they do. And although I haven't been able to see any of our police officers except our senior officer, Carl Rodriguez, thank you, Officer Rodriguez, for all you do. And please take that message back to the police department for all of us. And we appreciate what you do day in and day out to keep our community safe. So thank you. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to say was just Happy New Year to everyone. So thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Garamella, followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Pretty much the same thing. Without a good police force and the law enforcement, I think Morrisville would be a different place, and many people feel safe. Thanks for everything that you guys do, and Happy New Year. That's it.
Okay. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by myself.
Happy New Year. I am so excited about the great things that will happen for Morrisville this year. We are definitely finishing the Morrisville Carpenter Road project. Yay. And we're beginning other projects as well, and possibly finishing a fire station. But we are very grateful to our police department each and every day for keeping us safe, for keeping us aware of opportunities to come together as a community and to help each other. So thank you so much, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Now it's my turn, followed by Councilmember Fender. I just wanted to once again thank Mary Fawcett and the staff of the Parks and Rec Department for the Year of the Trail event. Looking forward to lots more of those. I want to congratulate all the elected officials who've recently been sworn in and have really started their work on our behalf. We appreciate each and every one of them. Really breaking news is congratulations to the International University Sports Federation, or FISU, NC Bid Committee. They were just awarded the 2029 FISU World University Games for North Carolina. They worked really hard to get the 2027, weren't able to get that, but they were just awarded the 2029. So that was a lot of hard work went into the effort. And our friend Hill Caro, who's a past Morrisville Town Council member, led the delegation to Lake Placid to secure the win. Congratulations to all of North Carolina on that. And since we're running late, I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Councilmember Fender.
I don't have any comments, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Rao, please.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Real quickly, I just want to, before I begin with my final message, I want to wish everyone Happy New Year. I just want to make sure that I apologize for any confusion this evening of my statements about Duke Energy giving our staff enough time and residents enough time to process information. That's what I meant, and I agree with the Mayor Pro Tem that I want to thank our staff for being so diligent with that. With bringing it to our attention. I do want to wish everyone a happy Law Enforcement Appreciation Month, and I want to also remind everyone that it's MLK weekend, and you can go to Triangle MLK to get information about not only Day of Service events on Monday, but all the different events going on. And I can't think of a better town than Morrisville that demonstrates Dr. King's vision of a nation where we can honor the words e pluribus unum, from many there are one. And that's really the way Morrisville is. There's so many different ethnicities and faiths and creeds right here in our all-America city. The final thing I'll say, this holidays, I happen to be able to walk around Morrisville with both my children, Sonia and Ryan. And when I was sworn in 12 years ago, they were 5 and 9 years old. And Sonia was here back from visiting Greece for a year as a junior UNC, and she was walking with me, and she said, Dad, I wish Morrisville was this nice when we were young kids. And she's said that she enjoyed playing disc golf with the mayor and Shannon and Ryan Colley, walking all the different greenways and seeing everything. And she wanted me to relay that message to all of you, which made me feel really good. And hopefully our children can stay here and raise their families. But that's at the end of the day while we're doing everything that we do. So, and then final thing, congratulations to all the members of our new North Carolina congressional delegation. I was in DC last week, but it was great to see Wiley Nickel joining the Congress, finally getting sworn in after 15 votes of a speaker. But it'll be exciting for him to be up to DC with the new congressional delegation from North Carolina along with Deborah Ross. So congrats to all of them.
Great. So Happy New Year from all of us. And now Town Manager Page.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several. Aaron is going to go first, and then I'm going to ask Jeannie to come up, followed by Brandon, that'll have a couple updates, and then I'll have a last one.
Members of the council. Very quickly, just wanted to remind you all that we do have a breakfast scheduled this coming Tuesday with your representatives in your local delegation. That is at 8:30 at the Historic Christian Church. You're welcome to come a few minutes early. We have not scheduled it for more than an hour because we do want to be respectful of your time and of our delegates' time. Thank you for everyone who has RSVP'd. For anyone who has not, please take a look at your email and that invitation that was sent and let us know if you plan to attend. We are going to have some breakfast items there. Want to make sure we have enough for everybody, but please take a look at that. As discussed when you adopted your legislative advocacy agenda for this upcoming biennium, we will also have some talking points prepared for you. And essentially, that's just going to be a one-pager of some information essentially that you can use as you have conversation with the delegates about why those focus areas that you included in that approved document are your focus areas. What are those sample projects? What are those examples of things in and around Morrisville that bring those things to the surface? So we'll be getting that to you hopefully ahead of Tuesday morning.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening and Happy New Year to you. And I too am excited for what this year brings, especially knowing that you're going to be talking and brainstorming about budget coming at your retreat. So with that said, we want to provide you with some preliminary input from your community. So we have opened the Budget Connection portal, and it is active and we are receiving input. It will close on January 26th at 5 p.m. and I will make sure to bring that information to retreat with you. And we'll provide you with some synthesized information of other community input items that we've received as well, because we think that'll help you with your brainstorming. So the intent of this is to really help you kind of get a sense at a high level what your community might be interested in. And that'll help you jumpstart your brainstorming activities. And then from there, once you do that and we hear what your interests are and what you want to hear from the community, we can formulate strategies and other ways an opportunity to reach out and engage with our community more interactively, as you have indicated previously, and other input opportunities you've shared with us as other ways that we can reach out and get more interest and participation. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and ask you, please use your avenues that you all have to retweet the social media items that's out there highlighting this, and the link is available online. All right, thank you so much.
Mayor, I have two items this evening. One is just to give you sort of a final run through on the logistics related to the retreat. So you've recently gotten the updated schedule from Martha. I'm not going to repeat that to you, just going to hit the highlights of how this is going to work. So as a reminder, that Thursday evening, we have the dinner and social opportunity here in council chambers with the department heads. That's from 5 to 6. And then the 6 to 9 o'clock will be department presentations that evening. I think those are always enjoyed by you and our staff. So hopefully that'll be an informational, but also a good evening for everybody, some time together. That Friday the 27th, asking you to be at Town Hall at 2 o'clock so that the bus can leave no later than 2:30 and head to Wilmington. And again, you have some opportunity to really just interact as you choose to on that ride down to Wilmington that afternoon. We will then do dinner as a group in Wilmington Friday night. Once you get checked in, we'll be at the Embassy Suites waterfront. And so just a reminder that dinner is casual, as really is the retreat, but the dinners particularly are casual. Don't feel like you need to do anything special for that. And then it'll be back to the hotel. Saturday, you'll be able to get breakfast on your own at the hotel's breakfast offering. We looked at that, and that's actually the best way to go about that. So that's open from, I believe, 7 to 8:30. Work session will start at 8:30. We are in the Marina meeting room. And again, we'll get this to you in writing as well, but just for your knowledge and others listening, in the Marina meeting room. Meeting on Saturday will go from 8:30 to 5:30. There will be lunch provided in that room as well as an afternoon snack. I'm going to give each of you the lunch options for you to choose a couple, one for Saturday and one for Sunday if you would, and also share any dietary restrictions that might exist. We can use that for the meals, the dinners as well, and for other things we have coming up. So again, dinner that night will be a short walking tour with the Deputy City Manager from Wilmington to talk a little bit about what they've done with their downtown revitalization. And he can do that in the time it will take us to walk. I think we're looking at 6 to 8 blocks from the hotel to dinner. So we're finalizing that dinner reservation now, but you'll have an opportunity to hear from the Deputy City Manager about some of what they've done, and then he'll also join us for dinner to continue that conversation with you as you choose. And then back to the hotel for the evening. Sunday, again, breakfast on your own, 7 to 8:30. Work session will start at 8:30 in that same Marina meeting room. Suggest you bring your luggage down with you that morning because we'll be checking out from that point and going right to the bus. And again, there will be a morning snack break that day just to keep you moving. And then lunch will be provided in the room before we wrap up around 3 o'clock and then get on the bus and get on back to Morrisville, hopefully arriving by 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock on Sunday evening. Questions that I didn't address? Okay, great. And I'll get you this meal options. If you could get that back to me as soon as practical, we need to wrap that menu up with the hotel this week. So if you could look at, and it's very simple. There's like 6 options for lunch. So just need you to, what 2 would you like or what 1 would you like twice? So we'll keep it simple. The other item I have for you then is to share with you that the pool area at MAFC is going to be closed for a period of time in February. So the original closure was related to a crack in the gutter area that needs to be repaired. It could develop into a safety hazard. That's a warranty item, so not on us to repair, but will require the pools to be closed. While we do that, there is also the opportunity to do some tile work that needs to be done. Wasn't quite as urgent, but rather than have to close again later, we're going to do it all at once. So staff has got that planned out. And again, because of the 2 different types of work that are being done, the pool's got to be drained. So it's not 3 weeks worth of work, but it could be closed for up to 3 weeks. Worst case, you got to drain it, then you got to prep it, then you got to repair it, then it's got to sit, particularly because of the work that's done for like 5 days before you can get it wet again. So then it's got to be filled and balanced and a lot of stuff that I don't know how to do, but they assure me they will handle. So we will get that reopened as soon as is practical. That has already started to be communicated to MAFC users. If you got your quarterly newsletter today, it is in there. And again, within appropriate times could flex, so we potentially a little longer because of this tile work. But we'll have that in news and notes. We'll have it next week in Morrisville. We'll be pushing that as well, so all of our users are aware of when it's closed and why it's closed, that we're not, doing this because we want to, but that we need to.
So to be clear, the tile work is the bottom of the pool?
No, the tile work is up along closer to the edge of the water. We've had some issues with folks that are swimming, particularly some of the teams, with some of the edges a little rough. And so as they're doing turns, they can get caught a little bit. So there's a process that a lot of pools, we've talked to some other pools in the area that will reduce that or eliminate that issue. So we're going to get that done while the pool's drained.
Okay. Any questions for the Deputy Town Manager or Town Manager? Seeing none, okay.
And mine is related to Justin. I've talked to some of you this evening about our employee event that is going to be this Thursday at Hope Community Church. Some of you have directly accepted that appointment, so thank you for that. We'll start gathering employees around 11, probably allow people to mix and mingle a little bit, get seated, serve. We have a caterer coming in that will actually serve the foods. That'll take a little bit more time, but it keeps less people around the food for the safety of everybody. So if you are able to attend some or all of that, we're going to recognize our 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year employees. But the added is you have not really had an opportunity to mix and mingle with new employees since early January 2020. So we have about 80 employees to introduce you to. Not all of them will be there, of course, but we do have that scheduled as well. A little holiday cheer will also be distributed in the form of a little token of appreciation that we usually give our employees. And it'll be a fun time if you're able to attend some or all of that.
Okay, all set.
And I don't know if I said it, Hope Community Church, 1000 Perimeter Park Drive, right at the intersection at Airport.
Okay. Great. Okay. Scheduled for a break, but we just took a break. So we have a work session. There's 3 roundtable items. I think we can get through them pretty fast. Just to review, these should take 5 minutes tops each. It's more of a, do we want to direct staff to investigate these further? Not really looking to dig in on any of these at all. If you could bring up the first one, I think that's Johnson. Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to just sort of give us a quick summary? And
So I'm not going to be able to say any more than I put in the document. I want to make sure that we're taking an extra special effort to make handicap accessible parking spots available specific, and if you read the document, specifically to our town special events that take place on Town Hall Drive. The bus that we use to bus folks in is not always the best for those that have mobility issues and mobility disabilities. So I'd just like us to look, even knowing that it may be a limited number of handicap spaces, and however y'all choose to administer it, I don't have a preference on that. I mean, you could ask folks to request a handicap spot and then give them a parking pass so that they can park at Town Hall or wherever, but it's more of just allowing handicap parking to be available at town special events.
does anyone have any follow-up questions for Mayor Pro Tem on that item?
I support it.
Okay, can we just give a thumbs up if you're in support of giving staff direction to follow up on that? Okay, that one's all done. The next one's mine. If you could just bring that up. The disc golf baskets are coming down soon. They haven't quite come down yet because we have to rest that field. We have the new properties right by the food hub that are now vacant and most likely will not be used for maybe a year. So instead of just leaving them vacant, it would not be outside the realm of possibility to just put a few disc baskets in there. It would take very little maintenance or anything like that. There is an area where there are some demolished buildings where those would have to be sort of out of bounds and people wouldn't go near them. But this would be a way to use an asset in the meantime, start to activate that space and use our disc baskets. Does anyone have any follow-up questions on that?
Can I just make a suggestion? I don't mind having staff look at this piece of property, but why have them only focus on this piece of property? Have we looked at all properties? I would say look at all of them.
I'd be more than happy to give staff that direction if that's the will of the council.
I mean, I agree with Council or Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. This property, I'm not sure if there would be parking and if there is some work being done to prepare this property more, to make it even more safe. I think there was some removal efforts and to keep it, I'd just like staff to maybe look at some surplus properties that might be temporarily available. Maybe that's what your real question is, not necessarily this specific solution, but maybe the spirit of this.
Okay, any other? Okay, yeah, I'd support those. Make it more general. You fine with me? Yep. Thumbs up if you're okay with staff looking into that a little bit further. Okay, we're good on that one. Now I'd like to pass it to Town Manager Page.
So this is just the best way I could get something in front of council to perhaps consider versus debate a lot. But when we updated our appointed public bodies policy, and this was after a lot of council input, this is when we developed the work plans, the annual work plans, and there was a lot of suggestions about joint meetings with advisory committees. That all sort of happened as COVID hit, and a lot of meetings got postponed anyways. But the short story is we have that in our policy and we are not doing it. And there's lots of issues related to that, timing, scheduling, how many committees we have, et cetera. It's just something we need to explore, whether we're committed to that, and if we're committed to that, how we're going to do it, or perhaps indicate that there might be modifications we're going to need to make to those expectations we have with our advisory committees.
I have some comments.
Congresswoman Johnson.
I think the voice of the committee and the value that we get by interacting with the committees is significant. And I know that COVID really prohibited us from doing a lot of engagement. Is it possible to kind of invite maybe one or more of the council members specifically to go to one of those committee meetings and we go to them versus they come to us, kind of thing, so that we have at least one council member visit each one of those meetings, not the mayor going to every single one. I really do mean that Liz goes to one, Donna goes to one, I go to one, you know, that kind of thing. So that it's really hard to get all 7 of us together, but if one or 2 of us go to one of these meetings and have that dialogue and learn some insights, it might meet the spirit of this, but it won't completely align with this item. Just the idea.
I'd piggyback on that like we could send up to 3 without a quorum.
Well, it's a public meeting. It's a public meeting.
But it would have to be noticed differently if 4 of us went to it.
Would it?
There's-
It's a public meeting.
It would.
It would? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Because that would be a council meeting, not a meeting of it would be both a council meeting and a meeting of that body. So, but yeah, I'd support us going to them, but this is the first look at this, and we just need to start thinking about it. We're not going to solve it tonight.
Exactly. I just don't want to be adding more meetings to add meetings. I think there is a way to meet this without, and maybe going to them is really a positive visual for us as well.
So I would agree with that. I think in the past, they have come to our council meetings. So I'm good with council going to their meetings to have this dialogue and conversation. I wouldn't be opposed if it was open to all council, you know.
Well, I just don't think I can make all the meetings. And I don't want people to think that I'm, favoring one over another. It's something that we need to figure out what is balanced, right? I mean, we all could go if we wanted to, but.
No, I hear you on that. I do like the idea of going to them, though. I would agree with that.
Councilmember Fender? Oh, I thought you were putting your thing up. So to that end, knowing that not all of us are going to be able to go to all of them, maybe we can direct staff to investigate whether or not it would make sense to choose certain ones or send us a sign-up genius and let us know which ones we would be able to attend. And if there's 4 of us who can attend a PSAC meeting in March, that would be the one that we can go to. And if the rest of them can come too, then we would have to notice it. Just brainstorming. Councilmember Garamella?
I think the idea of is to talk to them, not attend their meetings, right? So if you're attending a PMAC meeting or this one, you're not really getting first-hand experience talking to them as to what they think and get their input. So,
But we could be on the agenda, and that would allow for dialogue.
yeah, that's a possibility. But just going and attending,
Right, attending, no, but being an agenda item might be kind of fun.
I agree to that part. Because what would I do, just sitting in the
Right,
like
right.
30 or 45 minutes devoted to the conversation would be how I would imagine that.
And if I could add, that would be helpful to making sure that you're representing the council perspective. So there might need to be some prep.
Exactly.
For making sure we capture the sentiments of council, not whoever might happen to be there talking with them. And we have not talked to our advisory committees about this yet. This is something Eric and I have recognized as we start that work plan review. It's a gap in what we've been providing in our service delivery.
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Martha, we're not video or even audio recording all of those meetings, are we? Okay. Well, maybe this is a time to start that too.
Yeah, I like the idea of being an agenda item.
So they all have the opportunity then to hear what took place.
Right.
If we can't all be there.
Okay.
Are you?
Because I think I'm sorry, I'm thinking as
Please,
I'm
keep
talking
talking.
too. I
You're
think
fine.
it's valuable that we all hear the feedback from the committee members. So however that is accomplished.
Yeah, I used to watch the Facebook meetings all the
Yes,
time. I
yes,
was,
yes.
you know.
I've always believed as the town's grown that it's good to have council members involved with the committees. Over the years, I've been concerned that I think some of the committees are disconnected from what the council's doing and, you know, I mean, it's just my opinion, but like planning and zoning, for example, we don't interact with a lot. People send emails in saying, you know, recently we had someone send an email about the affordable housing plan or whatever, and
Right.
I just feel like there's a real lack of conversation there. And so I think it's good for our council to be involved in these committees. And some of these committees, I feel we've given them kind of free rein to do whatever and come back. But I think there needs to be some sense of accountability in terms of their body of work and what purpose it means. So I would even take it one step further. I mean, I probably won't be here when it happens, but, you know, having council members kind of involved with the committees a little bit more, I think is a good idea. I personally believe that.
When you were talking, it made me think, do we, and this is a question because I haven't thought this through, do we want to, you know, the Planning and Zoning Board is not an advisory committee, it's a board, so it technically is kind of a different, it's established differently. Do we want to have a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board, but then do what we're talking about with all the other advisory committees? Because there is a distinction between those.
Yeah, I think there should be a joint, I like that, having a joint meeting with the
P&Z
Planning and
is a
Zoning
joint.
Board
Yeah,
to make sure.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe I was misconstruing as an advisory committee, but I mean, I think it's important that we're on the same page. I mean, I've emailed, and maybe it's me, but I've emailed 1 or 2 P&Z board members and they don't even return my emails. And these are issues that are important. And if you're on a board and I don't care who it is, whoever's on the Planning and Zoning Board should be returning the emails of any sitting member of the council. And so, I mean, you know, it's like, if they're not willing to engage with us that way, then I want to sit down with the Planning and Zoning Board and know what are the criterias and factors that they're making decisions. Because over the last 6 months, we get, you know, they're recommending something and we don't even, anyway, I'm being very transparent, very honest. And I mean, I just think it's important.
So the staff brought this to us because they understand how hard it is to schedule all of this. So if we want to give direction that we want to have a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board and we want to make sure all 7 of us are there because it's so important, that's direction we can give them. But I think what I'm hearing is that we are okay visiting the various committee meetings on their schedule. Should kind of take a poll of us when we can make it, when it would make sense. Like the first meeting probably doesn't make sense because they have to talk about things first and prepare for us as well. So does staff have enough to go forward with that general framework? Okay, so that one was about a little over 5 minutes, but I think we did pretty well because we had some meat on that discussion.
It was a little over 5 minutes.
But I thought that was really good.
14 minutes, that wasn't bad.
Okay, so does anyone else have anything for the good of did you want to share something, Councilmember Rao?
One question, and I don't want to get into the thing, I just need to know, what is the process if we want to put forward a name for a citizen proclamation? Remember when Councilmember Garavella?
Yeah.
I have one individual that I would like to place forward. Okay, all right.
If you could send that to everybody just to refresh us, that'd be great.
If you don't mind, because then I didn't want to mention any names or whatever, but then what the process is, so, you know, so if you could send that, that'd be great, and then I'll take it.
Wonderful. Anything else from anybody? Everybody good? Anything for the good of the order, Town Manager Page from staff? Okay. Thank you very much for watching this meeting of the Morrisville Town Council. We hope you plan to join us again. Please feel free to email your town council members at towncouncil@townofmorrisville.org or visit www.townofmorrisville.org/council for additional contact information. Is there a motion and a second to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously 6-0. It is 10:03. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much and Happy New Year.